It all began one evening at our regular dinner table when my oldest son, Brad, announced he had something important to share with me. I'm Mary, 51 years old, and I work part-time. Mentally, I still feel youthful, though my body is showing signs of aging. My 3 sons, who have grown up to compensate for my diminishing energy, are my greatest pride. Brad, the eldest, has decided to tie the knot. While I knew he had a girlfriend, hearing about their engagement was still a pleasant surprise. So, Brett's getting married, huh? I guess that means you're getting old, honey. No beer for you tonight then, my husband joked. Ignoring his jest, I focused on Brad's expression. With our other sons away at college, Brad, now working, was the only one still living at home. His maturity had flourished in his years of employment, and now, with marriage on the horizon, he seemed more steadfast and reliable than ever. After my husband tearfully apologized to me, saying, "I'm sorry you're forever young and beautiful," I allowed him just one beer, according to my son. They were already discussing wedding venues and ring options, though the actual date was undecided. Brad wanted to bring his fiancée over to meet us first, which felt like a significant step. Marriage is a big milestone, I mused. I want them to have a wonderful ceremony. Though the stars of the day would be my son and his future wife, I couldn't help but feel a flutter of excitement. Perhaps I'd even treat myself to a new dress, reminiscing on my own bridal days as my husband continued to praise how radiant I looked in white. The weekend arrived, and Brad's fiancée, Alice, greeted us casually. "Hello, I'm Alice," she said, her demeanor reflecting the easy confidence of youth. Alice, a part-time worker at Brad's favorite cafe, had been captivated by him and pursued him until they began dating. As conversations lulled, my husband leaned in. "Ah, yes," and I nodded in agreement. "We have something important to share with you, Alice," my husband continued. "Brad isn't our biological son." Alice's eyes widened in surprise. "He's my nephew," I explained softly. "Brad's parents, my brother and his wife, tragically passed away when he was young. We adopted him and raised him as our own. He's like a son to us," my husband added warmly. "Please take good care of him." As Alice processed this revelation, a brief silence hung in the air before my husband swiftly changed the subject to lighter matters. "Well, let's leave the heavy stuff there. What kind of ceremony are you envisioning?" Alice smiled gratefully at the change in tone. "I'd love to wear a traditional white wedding dress, if possible." Glancing at Brad, who beamed in agreement, I couldn't help but share in their excitement. "That sounds wonderful. It's a once-in-a-lifetime event, so it should be perfect for the bride." At that point, Alice made a peculiar expression. For a moment, I thought she was glaring at me, but perhaps it was my imagination. Before I could dwell on it, her face returned to its usual expression. "And what about you, Brad? What kind of wedding do you want?" my husband asked, trying to involve our son in the wedding discussion. "Well, we don't really need your opinion," Alice immediately interjected. "What?" The 3 of us were taken aback, exchanging surprised looks. Alice seemed puzzled by our reactions, as if she couldn't understand what was wrong with her statement. "But didn't you say yourself, Auntie, that it needs to be perfect for the bride? The groom is just a bonus." "I'll have it my way," Alice asserted confidently, her smile radiant. Brad was left speechless, and I was momentarily stunned by her addressing me as Auntie. But shouldn't Brad's wishes also be considered? "Don't worry, leave everything to me, and it'll be the best wedding ever. Just make sure you work hard and contribute the funds, Brad," Alice continued with unstoppable energy and audacity, leaving us all speechless. What a remarkable girl, I thought, nodding in agreement. A few days later, both families met at a nice restaurant. This time my husband's mother was there too. She hadn't been able to join us last time because she was at an adult daycare center. Despite using a cane, she was quite energetic. "Sorry for the delay. Traffic was a nightmare," she apologized as she arrived. Alice spoke in a casual manner, even with my husband's mother, whom she had only met once before. In the background, I noticed Alice's parents shyly waving before taking their seats. The atmosphere was somewhat awkward, with little conversation as we quietly ate our meals. Just as I was about to initiate some small talk, Alice suddenly spoke up. "Granny, do you have trouble walking?" "That's right, dear. Old age has taken a toll on my legs," my mother-in-law replied. "Well, I absolutely refuse to care for you," Alice declared out of the blue, causing a moment of stunned silence. Someone went, "How?" It was probably my mother-in-law, but it might have been me, I said, wanting to clarify. I have no intention of caring for any of you. Auntie, you're not my mother, so you're a stranger. And while Uncle might be related, he's not my father. I won't look after any of you, Alice asserted boldly. Hey, Alice. Brad attempted to intervene, but she wouldn't relent. And I definitely won't be calling you Dad or Mom, so remember that, Alice added firmly. Glancing at Alice's parents, I was surprised to see them nodding in agreement. Well, it's true that Brad isn't our biological son, but we've raised him as one. My husband tried to interject. Hush, Uncle, Alice cut him off sharply. Okay, I'm sorry, my husband fell silent after the rebuke. At that moment, the gentle sound of a fork being placed down resonated. Is that so? Came a calm but firm statement. I glanced at my mother-in-law. She appeared composed, yet her underlying fury was palpable. They may not be their biological parents, but they've raised them with more love than many real parents would. That's not something outsiders should meddle with. My mother-in-law spoke with authority. I don't care what you say. I'm not doing any caregiving, Alice retorted defiantly. Her words infuriated me, but I held my tongue as my mother-in-law continued to speak. I'm not expecting anyone to take care of me. I know I'm old, but I don't want to burden my daughter-in-law, so I mostly use the facilities every day. Oh, really? Responded my mother-in-law. I've already transferred my assets to the couple as gifts while I'm still alive. They can use that money for the facilities or whatever they want, so you won't have to lift a finger. Well, isn't that nice? My mother-in-law replied with irritation evident in her tone. Even when her son tried to placate her, it seemed to have little effect. This discussion ends here. It's time to go home, my mother-in-law stated firmly, bringing the conversation to an abrupt close. With that single statement from my mother-in-law, the meeting came to an end. Women have become stronger these days. Perhaps that's the way of the world now. The rest of us, born in the 60s, returned home with mixed feelings. A few days later, my husband and Brad were at work, my mother-in-law was at the adult home, and I was alone at home on my day off from my part-time job when the phone rang. Oh, hey there, Auntie. Alice's voice surprised me when I picked up the phone. Auntie, can you not come to the wedding? Alice's request caught me off guard. What? I exclaimed in surprise at her unexpected request. You're not Brad's biological parent. Technically, you're his aunt. Since there's no blood relation, you're essentially a stranger. Strangers shouldn't come to weddings. But what about Brad? He wants us, his parents, to be at the ceremony, I pleaded. He doesn't matter. I'm planning the wedding my way. At the ceremony, I'll prepare a letter to his deceased parents that will surely move everyone, Alice insisted. That's not how it works. Brad's biological parents were important to him, but he considers us his real parents. That thought brought tears to her eyes before. I explained desperately. If you really want to attend, you'll have to be very generous with your gift. You received an inheritance from your mom, right? So, $10,000 is the bare minimum, if that's the case. I might let you sit in the far corner of the relative seats. How could you say such a thing? If you don't like it, fine. Don't come to the wedding. Oh, but you still have to give a gift. Wire transfer or registered mail is fine. Bye, Alice declared curtly before hanging up. The phone call felt like a whirlwind, leaving me unsettled. That night, Brad was working late due to overtime, and my husband was out for drinks. It was just my mother-in-law and me at home, contemplating the situation in silence. Looks like Alice doesn't like me, I remarked with concern. That's a problem, sighed my mother-in-law. Let's make her like us then, I suggested plainly. Simple and clear. If she dislikes us, we'll make ourselves likable, my mother-in-law agreed. And so, we stayed up late into the night, plotting various strategies. The sight of us grinning with satisfaction and saying, "Perfect, let's do this," left my husband dumbfounded when he returned home, but that's another story. The next day at lunch, when I called Alice and told her we had something for her, she came over promptly. Here to collect some cash, I joked as she arrived. Shaking my head at her assumption, I pulled out something. "What's this?" Alice asked, puzzled. "It's a cupcake I made," my mother-in-law chimed in with a smile. "I heard you don't have grandparents. Try some of this. It's a super traditional one." "I don't want it," Alice protested. "Don't be shy. Here you go," my mother-in-law insisted, pushing the treat towards her. Alice resisted, but my mother-in-law's assertiveness prevailed as she managed to get the cupcake into Alice's mouth. Well, that's gross. Why is this so salty? Alice exclaimed, quickly washing it down with the iced tea we had served. Salty? That's odd. It shouldn't be, I remarked, taking a bite myself and grimacing. We had entrusted everything to my mother-in-law, including the preparation and cleanup. But who could have predicted such a basic mistake? The cupcake plan had failed, but we remained undeterred. That's all right, let's move on to the next one, I said with determination. I have a gift for you. Wedding money? A gift card? Nope. Alice eyed the slightly larger paper bag I handed her, disappointment creasing her forehead as she inspected it. What's this? It's a dress. I hope you like it. It's gross. This isn't my taste at all. I would rather have money. Money? Alice bluntly stated her preference, making me reconsider giving it to her. I had carefully chosen the dress, thinking it would suit her well. Not having a daughter, I wasn't entirely familiar with current fashion trends for young women. Despite consulting with the store clerk, it seemed my efforts had fallen short. A real letdown. Another plan had failed, and instead of bringing us closer, it seemed to worsen things. That's enough. I don't want anything else. Just give me the cash, Alice demanded. A cash gift truly captures the spirit of celebration. Don't you want to celebrate your son? Of course. I do. Then I'll give it to my son. The wife should manage the husband's money. That's only natural. Just hurry up and hand it over, old woman. As Alice spoke, her true nature emerged, leaving me feeling saddened. Who are you calling an old woman? I'm still spry. Just by seeing spry, actually you're a granny, Alice continued brazenly. While I wondered how to respond, we were suddenly interrupted by a familiar voice saying, I'm home. Brad, wait, what happened at work? Alice panicked, clearly worried about being overheard. We went bankrupt, Brad replied listlessly. Bankrupt? The company's gone under. Alice's misunderstanding echoed through the room, followed by stunned silence. It wasn't just Alice who was surprised. My mother-in-law and I were both taken aback. Alice grabbed my son's shoulders and started shaking him. What does bankrupt mean? Jobless, penniless. What are we going to do about the wedding? I'm sorry, it'll have to wait, Brad replied, his voice devoid of energy. Releasing her grip from my son, Alice cried out, then how am I supposed to pay the damages? It wasn't just Alice's words that shocked us. My mother-in-law and I were stunned. My son being jobless was one thing, but I couldn't keep up with everything that was happening. Damages? Ah, never mind. Just give me the gift money quickly, Alice said, no longer caring if my son was present, holding out her hand to me. Alice, could you give us an explanation? My mother-in-law interjected. Shut up. Just give me the money, Alice snapped. It's you who needs to shut up, young lady. Explain yourself. My mother-in-law's tone suddenly turned harsh, catching Alice off guard. Under the watchful gaze of my mother-in-law and me, Alice began to speak in a weak voice. Apparently, Alice had been having an affair with her boss at her part-time job. Moreover, the man was married, and his wife found out, demanding damages. Alice had no money to pay, so she devised a plan to marry my son. She calculated that if they married, she would receive a hefty sum in gift money and planned to have my son pay for all the wedding costs while she kept the gift money for herself. My mother-in-law and I were speechless. We were angry that she had used my son, but we were also astounded by how she didn't think she had done anything wrong throughout the entire conversation. I've already settled things with my boss. Once I pay the damages, it'll be over. That's why I'm going through with the marriage. Give me the gift money. It's fortunate the truth came out before the wedding, but I didn't know what to say to her. As I pondered, I heard a low, muffled voice. Don't make decisions on your own. Looking up, I saw my son Brad glaring at Alice, his face filled with anger. Brad was usually so calm. He had never raised his voice at her before. Alice appeared startled. So what if it's over? You're not even trying to pay the damages yourself. You were planning to use our marriage for your own gain. You haven't shown any remorse. Do you really love me? Of course I love you. That's why I want to get married. Then pay the damages yourself. Show some sincerity. But, Alice tried to hold onto my son, but he coldly pushed her away. Either way, we can't get married until I find a new job. Can you wait until then? Alice was speechless. If she truly loved him, she would have been willing to wait and support him. But those words didn't come from her. That's enough, Brad finally said in frustration. I never even liked you to begin with. I thought you could bring in some money, but I don't need a jobless, penniless man." At last, Alice revealed her true feelings. Perhaps that was what she had been thinking all along. With those words, she shouted and stormed out of the house. I wondered if Brad was truly okay with this. I noticed him shaking. When I turned around, ready to comfort him, I noticed something unexpected. Laughter. My son burst out laughing suddenly. Had the shock broken him? It was a lie. Huh? A lie? The company's not bankrupt. Business is doing well. I just came back to pick up something I forgot. It turned out the bankruptcy was a ruse. My son had returned during his lunch break to retrieve something he'd left behind. Spotting us together and hearing our conversation, he grew suspicious of Alice's insistence on money and set a trap for her. I'd heard that a person's true nature shows when they face joblessness and financial trouble. I wanted to test it. The result was enlightening, to say the least. "Do you still love her?" I asked cautiously. My son looked a bit melancholy. I loved her enough to want to marry her, but sometimes love fades in an instant. Maybe I didn't love Alice as deeply as I thought. Perhaps calling off the engagement was for the best. I exchanged a knowing glance with my mother-in-law, and we both found ourselves laughing at the situation. As for what happened next, we later learned that the cafe where Alice worked part-time had closed down. Apparently, the manager, who was Alice's affair partner, had to sell the cafe due to a messy divorce and hefty alimony payments. This information came from another regular customer at the cafe. According to Brad, Alice had no means to pay the alimony herself and had to rely on her parents. They were furious with her and ultimately kicked her out of the house. She ended up living in a rundown apartment and took up a night job. Years later, when my two younger sons had started their careers, Brad was preparing for his marriage. His partner was a kind-hearted woman. "Thank you for raising Brad into a wonderful man. I'm not much, but I'm looking forward to getting to know you both better," she told us, even knowing the truth. Moved to tears by her gratitude, both my husband and I were deeply touched. Seeing us emotional, Brad smiled broadly. "Congratulations, Brad. I'm sure your parents in heaven are also happy," I said to him. "Yes, but I'm happiest when my parents here with me are happy," Brad replied softly. His words brought tears to my eyes once more. "Oh dear, here come the tears again. You're crying too much. You've aged and gotten so tearful," my husband teased. I turned to him and declared, "Well, no beer for you tonight then."
I never meant to find that room. If I'd just minded my own business like Father always insisted, maybe things would have turned out differently. But then again, maybe they were always meant to unravel this way. My name is Millie, and until last Tuesday, I thought I knew everything about our family sprawling mansion. Growing up here, I'd explored every corner, from the wine cellar to the attic. Or so I believed. I was looking for Mother's old art supplies in the East Wing when I noticed something odd about the wallpaper near Father's private study. A slight discoloration, barely visible unless you were right up close. I probably wouldn't have even spotted it if I hadn't been procrastinating on my college applications. Running my fingers along the seam, I felt a slight draft. The wall panel gave way under pressure, revealing a keypad hidden behind the wallpaper. I should have walked away. Instead, I punched in Father's birthday, the code he used for everything, despite my brother Henry's constant lectures about security. The panel slid open with a soft hiss. "What are you doing up here?" Henry's voice made me jump. He stood at the end of the hallway, his usually perfect hair disheveled like he'd been running his hands through it. I gestured vaguely at the open panel. "Did you know about this?" Henry's face went pale. "Millie, close that right now. You can't be here." But I was already stepping inside. The room was small, maybe 12 by 15 feet, with steel filing cabinets lining the walls and a desk covered in documents. What caught my eye, though, was the gun rack mounted on the far wall. "These aren't hunting rifles," I whispered, recognizing the sleek shapes of weapons that had no business being in our home. Henry grabbed my arm. "We need to go. Now. Wait." I pulled away, moving toward the desk. A folder lay open, revealing what looked like shipping manifests. The company name at the top, Thompson Global Solutions, was familiar, but the contents listed made no sense. "Since when does Father's company deal in military equipment?" "Millie, please." Henry's voice cracked. Some things are better left alone. Footsteps echoed in the hallway. Henry cursed under his breath and pulled me behind one of the cabinets just as Father's voice drifted in. The wedding arrangements are proceeding as planned, Father was saying. Once Millie's married to David Reed, Marcus's cooperation will be guaranteed. I felt the blood drain from my face. David Reed was Marcus's son, a man I'd met exactly once at a company gala last month. He was at least 15 years older than me and had spent the entire evening staring at me like I was a prize horse at auction. And if she refuses? It was Marcus's voice, smooth as oil. Father's laugh was cold. She won't. Millie knows her duty to this family. Besides, she's still young enough to be guided. I must have made some small sound because Henry's hand clamped over my mouth. We stayed frozen as Father and Marcus continued their conversation, discussing business deals that sounded more and more like something out of a crime thriller. When their voices finally faded, Henry released me. I turned to face him, trembling. How long have you known? Millie. He ran a hand through his hair again. It's complicated. Complicated? I hissed. Father's running some kind of illegal weapons operation and planning to marry me off like it's the 1800s. What's complicated about that? Before Henry could answer, my phone buzzed. A text from Mother. Your father wants everyone dressed for dinner in an hour. He has an announcement to make. I looked at Henry, and for the first time in my life, I saw real fear in my brother's eyes. You need to act normal, he whispered. Like you never saw any of this. Promise me. But as we carefully closed the hidden room and headed downstairs, I knew one thing for certain. I couldn't pretend anymore. Not when my entire future was about to be traded away like a business asset. I had to find a way out. The dinner announcement felt like a noose tightening around my neck. I sat at our massive dining table, pushing food around my plate while Father held court at the head, all smiles and charm. Mother perched beside him, her face a perfect mask of serenity that only slipped when she thought no one was looking. David Reed will be joining us for dinner tomorrow night, Father announced, his voice carrying that tone that meant no discussion was welcome. I expect everyone to make him feel welcome. I dropped my fork with a clatter. I'm actually feeling quite ill. Maybe I should skip. Nonsense. Father's smile didn't waver, but his eyes hardened. You're 18 now, Millie. It's time you started taking an interest in the family business. Henry caught my eye from across the table, a silent warning in his expression. I forced myself to nod and mumble something agreeable. After dinner, I followed Mother to her studio. She was already mixing paints, her hands steady despite the slight tremor in her voice. Your father means well, darling. Does he? I closed the door behind me. Like he meant well when he drove away all your artist friends? When he made you stop exhibiting your work? Mother's brush stilled on the canvas. That's different. I chose this life. Did you really choose, or did he just make all your other options disappear? She turned to face me, and for the first time in years, I saw something crack in her carefully maintained composure. There are things you don't understand about your father, about the way this world works. Then help me understand. I stepped closer, lowering my voice. I found his secret room today. The weapons, the documents. Stop. Mother's paint-stained fingers gripped my wrist. Some questions are dangerous to ask, Millie. Your father. He doesn't handle disloyalty well. What happened to Uncle James? The question hung in the air like smoke. Uncle James, Father's younger brother, had disappeared 3 years ago. The official story was that he'd moved to Australia, but he'd never called, never written. Mother's face went ash-white. Please, Millie, don't. A knock at the door made us both jump. Henry entered, his expression grim. Father wants to see you in his study, Millie. Now. My heart hammered as I climbed the stairs. The hidden room was just feet away from Father's study, its secrets burning in my mind. When I entered, Father was standing at the window, a glass of whiskey in his hand. Close the door, he said without turning around. I did, my fingers trembling slightly. You remind me so much of your uncle sometimes, he said, and my blood ran cold. Always questioning, always pushing boundaries. I don't know what you mean. He turned then, fixing me with those steel gray eyes that could strip away pretense like paint. Henry tells me you've been asking about James. Mental note, never trust Henry with sensitive information again. I just wondered why he never calls, I said carefully. We were close. Family is everything, Millie. Father set down his glass and approached me. But family loyalty must be absolute. James forgot that. He started asking questions, making accusations. It became messy. The threat wasn't subtle. I forced myself to meet his gaze. I understand, Father. Do you? He touched my cheek, a gesture that once meant comfort but now felt like ownership. Tomorrow night, you'll wear the blue dress your mother bought you. You'll smile, laugh at David's jokes, and show him what a perfect Thompson daughter you are. Because that's what family does. We play our parts. I nodded, not trusting myself to speak. Good girl. He kissed my forehead. You may go. I managed to walk calmly until I reached my room. Then I collapsed against the door, my whole body shaking. Through the window, I could see Mother's studio light still burning, a lonely beacon in the darkness. I pulled out my phone and typed a message to the only person who might understand. Henry, we need to talk. About Uncle James. The response came quickly. Delete this message. Meet me at the old boathouse. Midnight. I stared at the screen until the words blurred. Whatever happened to Uncle James, I had a feeling I was about to find out. And something told me it would change everything. The old boathouse creaked in the midnight wind, its weathered boards a stark contrast to our mansion's polished facade. I'd barely made it through the door when Henry grabbed my arm, pulling me into the shadows. We're not alone, he whispered. Marcus Reed emerged from behind a stack of canoes, his expensive suit looking out of place among the cobwebs and dust. Miss Thompson, how nice of you to join us. My stomach dropped. What's he doing here? Your brother and I have been having some interesting conversations, Marcus said, his smile never reaching his eyes. About your father's business practices. About Uncle James. I turned to Henry, betrayal burning in my throat. You told him. He needed to know, Henry said. Show her. Marcus pulled out his phone, playing a video that made my blood run cold. It showed Uncle James arguing with Father in his study. The timestamp was from 3 years ago, the night before he moved to Australia. Your uncle discovered certain irregularities in the company books, Marcus explained. Weapons being sold to some very unsavory people. He threatened to expose everything. The video ended with Father making a phone call. Take care of it. That's not. I couldn't finish the sentence. Not what? Henry's voice was bitter. Not like our father? Wake up, Millie. James isn't in Australia. He's buried somewhere in the woods behind the country club. My legs gave out, and I sank onto an overturned bucket. Why are you showing me this now? Because history is about to repeat itself, Marcus said. Your father's planning something big. Something that would make the weapons dealing look like a parking ticket. And he's using your marriage to David to secure my loyalty. I won't do it, I said. I'll run away. Like Catherine did? Henry asked quietly. The name hit me like a slap. Catherine, my cousin who'd disappeared 10 years ago. Another family mystery I'd been too young to question. How many? I whispered. How many people has he? Too many, Marcus said. But we can stop him. With your help. I looked between them, these men plotting in shadows. Why should I trust either of you? Because I can get you out, Marcus said. New identity, new life, far from here. But first, we need evidence. The kind that's in that room you found. My heart raced. You want me to steal from Father's secret room? We want you to save yourself, Henry said. And maybe Mother too, before it's too late. A noise outside made us all freeze. Footsteps on the dock. Tomorrow night, Marcus whispered urgently. During the dinner with David. The study will be empty. It's your only chance. We scattered like shadows, leaving through different exits. I made it back to my room just as Father's security detail passed beneath my window. Sleep was impossible. I lay in bed, Uncle James's face haunting me. Had he felt this same terror in his final hours? Had Catherine? My phone buzzed at dawn. A text from an unknown number. Meet me at the coffee shop on Grove Street. 7 a.m. Come alone. Jay. I almost deleted it, but something made me hesitate. The initial, J, could have been coincidence, but the timing was too perfect. I got dressed quickly, my mind racing. If I was going to survive this, I needed more allies. More information. The weapons in Father's room weren't just for show. They were a promise of what happened to people who crossed him. As I slipped out of the house, I caught sight of Mother in her studio, already painting. But this time, I noticed what she was working on, a landscape of the country club grounds, with dark shapes hidden among the trees. She'd known. All this time, she'd been painting her grief, her guilt, her secrets. I couldn't end up like her, trapped in a gilded cage with blood-stained memories. I couldn't become another family mystery, whispered about but never discussed. The coffee shop was 3 blocks away. Each step felt like a choice between life and death, trust and betrayal, action and paralysis. Whatever waited for me there, whoever Jay was, had to be better than the fate Father had planned for me. Because now I understood, in our family, marriage wasn't an arrangement. It was a sentence. The coffee shop was nearly empty when I arrived. A man sat in the corner booth, his face hidden behind a newspaper. As I approached, he lowered it slowly, and my world tilted sideways. Uncle James? He looked different, thinner, grayer, with a scar running along his jawline. But those eyes were unmistakable. Thompson eyes. "Sit down, Millie," he said quietly. "We don't have much time." My hands shook as I slid into the booth. "You're supposed to be dead." I was supposed to be a lot of things. He pushed a manila envelope across the table. "Your father's men will be here in 10 minutes. Security noticed you leaving the house." I grabbed the envelope. "How are you even alive?" "I saw the video. Marcus showed you exactly what Richard wanted everyone to see." James glanced at his watch. "The real video shows your father ordering my execution. But Marcus had other plans. He helped me disappear, kept me informed. Now I'm returning the favor." The pieces clicked together. Marcus isn't really helping Henry and me, is he? Marcus helps Marcus. He's playing both sides, waiting to see which horse will win the race. James leaned forward. "But you're different. You have a chance to get out like I did. Everything you need is in that envelope. New identity, accounts, contacts. Use it tonight, during the dinner party." My throat tightened. "What about Mother?" Henry made his choice when he aligned with Marcus. "Your mother." James's expression softened. "Eleanor knows more than she lets on. She's stronger than you think." A black SUV rolled past the window. James tensed. "One more thing," he said, sliding a key across the table. "Storage Unit 247, Central Storage. What's inside might help you understand why your father is so desperate to keep control of the family. But be careful. Knowledge is dangerous in our world." He stood, adjusting his cap. "Good luck, Millie. You're braver than I was at your age." I watched him disappear through the back door just as 2 of Father's security men entered through the front. I slipped the envelope into my bag and pretended to study the menu. Back home, I found Mother in the garden, pruning roses with mechanical precision. Her hands were bleeding, but she didn't seem to notice. "The blue roses are dying," she said without looking up. "Your father's favorite." I touched her shoulder. "Mother, I know where you went this morning." She finally met my eyes. James was always good at hiding. Like Catherine. My heart stopped. "Catherine's alive?" Mother smiled sadly. "The Thompson women survive, Millie. We adapt." She pressed something cold into my palm, a locket. "Whatever you decide to do tonight, remember that." I opened my mouth to respond, but Father's voice cut through the garden. "There's my girls." He approached with Marcus and David Reed in tow. David's eyes crawled over me like insects. "Doesn't Millie look lovely today?" Father said, his hand heavy on my shoulder. "David was just saying how much he's looking forward to dinner tonight." I forced a smile, feeling the locket burn against my palm. "Can't wait." Later, in my room, I opened the envelope. Inside were documents, cash, and a note. "The truth about Catherine is in the storage unit. She's waiting for you in Montreal. Jay." My phone buzzed. "Henry, whatever you're planning, don't trust Marcus." He showed father the coffee shop footage. Another buzz, unknown number, storage unit compromised. Don't go there. Meet me at the old church instead. 8 p.m. Jay. But something felt wrong. The handwriting in the second note was different from James's first one. A trap? I looked out my window at the gathering storm clouds. In 6 hours, dinner would begin. In 6 hours, I'd either be free or follow in Uncle James's footsteps, running, hiding, surviving. Or worse, I'd end up like the others who had crossed father. I opened the locket mother gave me. Inside wasn't a photo, but a tiny key. On its head was engraved, 247. Mother's words echoed in my mind. The Thompson women survive. Time to prove her right. The storage unit key felt like it was burning a hole in my evening clutch as I sat through the most excruciating dinner of my life. David Reed's hand kept finding its way to my knee under the table, while father watched with approving eyes. Mother hadn't come down. A migraine, she'd claimed. But I'd seen the packed overnight bag hidden under her bed. I was thinking a spring wedding, David announced, his fingers digging into my leg. April, perhaps? I shifted away, accidentally catching Henry's eye across the table. His face was a mask, but his knuckles were white around his wine glass. Wonderful idea, father beamed. Millie, darling, why don't you show David the garden? The roses are lovely in the moonlight. It wasn't a suggestion. I stood, forcing a smile that felt like broken glass. Of course. The moment we stepped outside, David's charm evaporated. He grabbed my arm, spinning me to face him. Let's be clear about something. I know you're planning something stupid. Marcus told me about your little coffee shop meeting. I tried to pull away, but his grip tightened. I don't know what you're talking about. Uncle James? He laughed coldly. Did you really think he'd risk everything to save you? He's dead, sweetheart. Has been for years. Marcus played you, and now you're going to play your part like a good little wife, or Daddy Dearest finds out everything. A shadow moved near the roses. Mother stood there, pruning shears in hand, watching us with an expression I'd never seen before. David, she called softly. I believe Richard wanted to discuss business details with you. He released me, straightening his jacket. We'll continue this conversation later, dear. The moment he disappeared inside, Mother pressed something into my hand. Car keys. Storage unit 247, she whispered. Go now. I'll keep them distracted. But, now, Millie. I ran. The storage facility was only 10 minutes away, but every shadow looked like father's security detail. Every car behind me could have been Marcus or David. Unit 247 was at the back of the complex. The key worked, but the door stuck. I heaved it up, and the smell hit me first, musty papers and old leather. Inside was a lifetime of secrets. Filing cabinets lined one wall, each drawer labeled with a year. On a desk sat a laptop and a stack of USB drives. But what caught my eye was the corkboard covered in photos, father with men I'd seen in news reports about organized crime. Weapons shipments. Money transfers. And in the center, a photo of Catherine. She was older than in my memories, the timestamp showing it was taken just last year. She was alive. My phone buzzed. Henry, father knows you're gone. Get out now. I grabbed the laptop and drives, shoving them into my bag. As I reached for Catherine's photo, headlights swept across the storage unit's entrance. Millie? A man's voice, one I didn't recognize. I'm Jake. Your mother sent me. We need to move. I peered around the door. He was younger than I expected, maybe mid-20s, with kind eyes that didn't match the gun holstered under his jacket. How do I know you're telling the truth? He held up his phone, showing a text from Mother's private number. The Thompson women survive. Another set of headlights appeared at the entrance to the storage facility. Choose now, Jake said quietly. But choose fast. My phone buzzed again. An unknown number. Trust Jake. He was Catherine's way out. Now he's yours. Love, Mom. The approaching headlights belonged to a black SUV, father's security detail. I looked at Jake, then at the evidence in my bag. Everything I needed to destroy father's empire or save myself. I couldn't do both. Which way to Montreal? I asked. Jake smiled, extending his hand. "Let me show you." Behind us, voices shouted. Orders were given. But as we slipped into the shadows, I finally understood what Mother meant. Survival wasn't about running away. It was about choosing when to fight back. 3 days into our escape, Jake's car broke down outside Montreal. We were huddled in a dingy motel room, watching snow fall through a cracked window when my phone lit up with a video call from Henry. My brother's face was bruised, one eye swollen shut. "They know everything, Millie." Jake moved closer, his hand steady on my shoulder. "Who did this to you?" "Marcus." Henry's laugh was bitter. "Turns out he's been playing both sides longer than we thought. He has Uncle James." The room tilted sideways. "James is alive?" "Barely. Father's keeping him in the basement of the country club. But that's not," Henry glanced over his shoulder. "Mother's missing. After she helped you escape, she went to her studio and never came out. There was blood on her roses." The phone slipped from my fingers. Jake caught it, continuing the conversation while I stumbled to the bathroom. The face in the mirror looked like a stranger, dark circles under my eyes, hair tangled from days of running. "Your father's men are an hour behind us," Jake said from the doorway. "We need to move." I gripped the sink. "We have to go back." "That's suicide." "They have my family." The mirror cracked under my fist, blood welling up between my knuckles. Mother, James, Henry, they're all suffering because I ran. Jake pulled out his gun, checking the magazine. "There's something you need to know. I worked for your father before I helped Catherine escape. I was his cleaner." The word hung between us like poison. "Did you?" I couldn't finish the question. "No, but I helped hide the bodies of those who crossed him. That's why I got out, helped Catherine get out. And now they're using that against me." He showed me his phone, photos of Catherine, clearly recent, clearly captive. "Marcus sent these an hour ago." Everything clicked into place. "You didn't help me because Mother asked. You needed the evidence in that storage unit to save Catherine." His silence was answer enough. I opened my bag, pulling out the laptop and drives. "Then let's use it. All of it. Take down Father, Marcus, everyone. They'll kill them all the moment we try. Not if we're smart." I powered up the laptop, fingers flying over the keys. Father always said knowledge is power. Let's see what secrets he's been keeping. The files were encrypted, but I recognized the pattern, the same code Father used for everything. His arrogance would be his downfall. A message popped up on my phone, final warning. "Come home now or Mother joins Uncle James. You have 1 hour. David." Attached was a photo of Mother's studio, her easel smashed, blood on the flowers. "I can't lose anyone else," I whispered. Jake checked his gun again. Sometimes the only way to save everyone is to risk everything. Or lose everything. He touched my cheek, turning my face toward his. "Your father took everything from me once. I won't let him do it again." The laptop chimed, files decrypted. What I saw made my blood run cold. Weapon sales were just the beginning. Human trafficking, political assassinations, evidence of murders stretching back decades. Including proof that Catherine wasn't Father's first victim, just the first to survive. Another message buzzed through. "TikTok. Daddy's getting impatient. David." I looked at Jake, at the evidence that could destroy my father's empire, at the proof that could save lives, but might cost me everyone I loved. "We can run," Jake offered quietly. "Start new lives. Let it all burn behind us." But Mother's words echoed in my head. "The Thompson women survive." "No," I said, closing the laptop. "We're going back. But not to surrender. They'll be expecting that." I pulled Mother's locket from my pocket, studying the key that had started everything. Exactly. They're expecting a scared little girl running home to Daddy. Instead, they're going to get what Father always feared most. "What's that?" I smiled, and for the first time, I saw my father steal in my own reflection. A Thompson who's not afraid of him anymore. The snow kept falling outside our window, covering our tracks, burying the past. By morning, it would be time to face the future, whatever the cost. The country club's basement smelled like copper and fear. Jake and I moved silently through the darkness, guided by the blueprints Henry had sent. Somewhere above us, Father was hosting his annual charity gala, the perfect cover for what was about to happen. We found Uncle James first, handcuffed to a pipe. His face was bloody, but his eyes lit up when he saw us. Should have known Eleanor's daughter wouldn't run forever. "Mother," I whispered, working on his restraints. "Storage room down the hall. Marcus has been keeping her separate from me." Smart man. She nearly took his eye out with her paintbrush. Jake handed James a gun. "Catherine? Top floor. Richard's office. He's keeping her close tonight." Footsteps echoed above us. The gala was in full swing, crystal glasses clinking to the sound of blood money changing hands. "You remember the plan?" I asked James. He nodded, checking the gun. "Create a distraction in the main hall. Get the police here. Keep them busy while you handle Richard. And Marcus?" James's smile was cold. "Leave Marcus to me. He and I have unfinished business." We split up. Jake and I found Mother exactly where James said. She was already free, picking the lock with a broken easel wire. When she saw us, she pressed a finger to her lips and pointed upward. Marcus's voice drifted down from the stairwell. "Richard wants them alive," he was saying. "Especially the girl. He has plans for her." Mother's eyes met mine. In them, I saw 18 years of carefully contained rage. She mouthed one word: "Go." Jake squeezed my hand before melting into the shadows, heading for the security room. Everything was in place. Now came the hard part. I climbed the stairs alone, Father's encrypted files burning a hole in my pocket. The hallway to his office stretched before me like a gauntlet. Inside, I could hear him talking. "Your cousin never did learn," he was saying. "But you will, won't you, Catherine?" I pushed open the door. Father sat behind his desk, looking exactly as he had at dinner 4 days ago. Catherine stood by the window, older but unmistakable, a bruise darkening her cheek. "Hello, Father." He didn't seem surprised to see me. "I knew you'd come home eventually. Thompson blood always tells." That's what Mother says. I moved closer, noting the gun on his desk. "Though I don't think she meant it quite the same way you do. Where's the evidence, Millie?" "Safe. Unless anything happens to my family, any of them." His laugh was genuine. "You think you can blackmail me? I taught you everything you know." "Not everything." I pulled out my phone, showing him the live feed Jake had set up. "Right now, every screen in the main hall is showing your secret files. The weapons deals. The murders. Everything." For the first time, Father's composure cracked. Below us, chaos erupted as his carefully curated world began to crumble. "You're bluffing. Mother taught me to paint, Father. But you taught me how to destroy things." He reached for the gun, but Catherine was faster. She grabbed his wrist, slamming it against the desk. I dove for the weapon as it skittered across the floor. When I stood, Father was staring at me like he'd never seen me before. "You're just like him," he whispered. "Like James. Weak. Sentimental." "No," I said, keeping the gun steady. "I'm just like you. I learned to take what I want." Police sirens wailed in the distance. Through the window, I could see guests fleeing, Marcus being tackled by James, Mother emerging from the basement like an avenging angel. "What do you want?" Father asked quietly. "I want you to know what it feels like to lose everything. To watch your world burn and know you can't stop it." I stepped back toward the door. "I want you to live with it like we all had to." His face contorted with rage as he lunged forward, but Catherine's punch dropped him cold. She looked at me, tears in her eyes. "Ready to get out of here, cousin?" I nodded, hearing Jake's footsteps in the hall, knowing Mother and James were safe below. "The Thompson women survive," I said, watching Father's empire collapse around him. And for the first time in my life, those words felt like a promise instead of a curse. 6 months after Father's arrest, I stood in Mother's new studio in Montreal, watching her paint the sunrise. Her hands were steady now, no longer trembling under the weight of secrets. The canvas bloomed with colors she'd never dared use in the mansion: fierce reds, defiant purples, free-flowing blues. "Henry called," she said, adding a streak of gold to the horizon. "The trial date is set." I nodded, fingering the locket that had started everything. Will you testify? We all will. She set down her brush, studying her work. Even Catherine. Catherine had disappeared again after that night, but differently this time, on her own terms, with a promise to return. She sent postcards from places Father had forbidden us to visit, each one signed with a simple, "The Thompson women survive." Uncle James appeared in the doorway, his scars fading, but still visible. "Jake's here with the files from the safe deposit box." My heart jumped at Jake's name, even now. He entered carrying a familiar stack of documents, but his eyes were only for me. We'd grown closer over these months, building something careful and real from the ashes of our shared trauma. "You need to see this," he said, laying out the papers. "Your mother's been busy for years." The documents told a story I'd never suspected. Mother hadn't just been painting all those years, she'd been documenting. Every transaction, every crime, every victim. Her artwork contained hidden messages, dates, locations. She'd built a case against Father piece by piece, painting by painting. "I couldn't save James when Richard tried to kill him," Mother said quietly. "But I could make sure his crimes wouldn't stay buried forever." "The paintings in your studio," I realized. "The ones Father never let anyone see. Evidence," she confirmed. "All of it. I knew someday one of us would be strong enough to use it." James squeezed her shoulder. "You were always the strong one, Eleanor. We just didn't see it." A text lit up my phone. "Henry, David Reed rolled on Father. Marcus too. It's really over." But was it? Father still haunted my dreams sometimes, his voice whispering about Thompson blood and family loyalty. In quiet moments, I caught myself checking over my shoulder, planning escape routes. "You're not him," Jake said softly, reading my thoughts like he always could. "You never were." I opened the locket, looking at the key that had unlocked so much more than just a storage unit. "No, I'm not. I'm my mother's daughter." Mother smiled, turning back to her canvas. The sunrise she'd painted wasn't just breaking, it was shattering the darkness, sending shards of night scattering like a broken mirror. "I got another postcard from Catherine," I said. "She's in Paris. Says we should join her." "Will you go?" James asked. I looked around the studio, at Mother finally creating freely, at Jake's steady presence beside me, at the family we'd pieced together from broken parts. "Not yet," I decided. "First, we have a trial to finish, a story to tell. And after," Jake's hand found mine, "after we live. Not just survive, live." Mother added one final stroke to her painting, a small figure standing in the breaking dawn, face turned toward the light. Looking closer, I realized it wasn't one figure, but many, their shadows intertwined, holding each other up. My phone buzzed again. An unknown number, but I knew who it was. "Found something you should see." Another family secret, but this one's different. "When you're ready." "See." I smiled, tucking the phone away. Some mysteries could wait. Some secrets were better unveiled slowly, in their own time. Outside, snow was falling, Montreal's endless winter finally giving way to spring. Soon, Father would face justice. Soon, our testimony would ensure he never hurt another family again. But for now, I was content to watch Mother paint, to feel Jake's hand in mine, to know that Uncle James was safe and Catherine was free. To understand finally that revenge hadn't healed us. Truth had. The Thompson women survived. But more than that, we learned to live. And that was the greatest victory of all.
The morning of my wedding day, I found my father's old pocket watch hidden in my bouquet. The silver timepiece that had been missing since his death 3 months ago now sat nestled between white roses and baby's breath, its familiar weight as condemning as a loaded gun. My name is Eleanor, and I wasn't supposed to find that watch until after I said, "I do." I knew this because I'd overheard Ben, my soon-to-be husband, discussing it with Lisa last night. "Your dress looks perfect," Abigail said, adjusting my veil in the mirror of the bridal suite. "Ben won't know what hit him. If only she knew how right she was." "Thanks, Abby." I smiled, running my fingers over the watch's scratched surface. "Did you know my father used to say timing was everything?" Roland was full of cryptic sayings like that. She laughed. Remember when he'd make us solve riddles before we could have dessert? The memory stung. Dad's puzzles weren't just games. They were lessons. One of his favorites was hiding things in plain sight, teaching me that sometimes the truth sits right under your nose, like how Ben had been hiding his true nature under that perfect smile. A knock at the door made us both turn. "Eleanor?" Lisa's voice carried through the wood. "Can I come in? I have your something borrowed." My heart clenched, but I kept my voice steady. "Come in." Lisa entered, radiant in her maid of honor dress, holding a delicate pearl bracelet. Her hands trembled slightly as she approached. "This was my grandmother's," she said, not quite meeting my eyes. "It's beautiful," I replied, extending my wrist. As she fastened the clasp, I noticed a faint mark on her neck, one that matched the shape of Ben's favorite cologne. "I can't believe you're getting married," Lisa whispered, her guilt hidden behind a bright smile. "We've come so far since playing in your father's library." Yes, we had. Far enough for her to sleep with my fiancé while helping him scheme for my inheritance. "Remember how Dad would leave those elaborate treasure maps?" I asked, watching her reflection in the mirror. Each clue leading to the next until we found whatever he'd hidden. Lisa's smile faltered. "He always did love his games." "He did." I tucked the pocket watch into my bodice, and he taught me everything he knew about them. Another knock, this time my Uncle George. "It's time, sweetheart." "Just a minute," I called out, then turned to Lisa. "Would you check if the photographer is ready? I need a moment with Abby." Once Lisa left, Abigail grabbed my hands. "Eleanor, you're shaking. Are you okay?" I squeezed her fingers. "Did you do what I asked?" She nodded. "Dallas has the envelope. He'll open it exactly when you signal." "Perfect." I took a deep breath, smoothing my dress. Dad always said, "Revenge is a dish best served with witnesses." "Eleanor," Abigail's voice dropped to a whisper. "Are you sure about this? You can still call it off." I met her concerned gaze in the mirror. 3 months ago, my father died and left me a map. Not just any map, his last game, his final lesson. 2 weeks ago, I solved it. And you know what I found? I pulled out the watch, clicking it open to reveal a hidden compartment. Proof. Proof that Ben's been playing his own game, with Lisa's help. The photos. And the messages, all dated before Dad died. I closed the watch with a snap. They thought they were so clever, waiting until after the funeral to start their affair. But Dad knew, he knew, and left me everything I needed to understand why Ben suddenly proposed 3 days after the reading of the will. The wedding march began to play faintly through the doors. Abigail squeezed my shoulder. "Your father would be proud, you know. You're as cunning as he ever was." I stood, straightening my spine. "He taught me that sometimes the best revenge isn't about destroying your enemies." I smiled, thinking of the surprise waiting in Dallas's envelope. "It's about letting them destroy themselves. Places, everyone." The wedding coordinator's voice chirped through the door. I took one final look in the mirror, seeing my father's determination reflected in my eyes. The same eyes that had cried when Ben proposed. Not from joy, but from finally understanding Dad's last message. "The truth, my dear Eleanor, is like water. No matter how hard they try to hold it back, it always finds its way out." "Ready?" Abigail asked, holding the door. I touched the watch through my dress, feeling its steady tick against my heart. "I've been ready since I found this watch in Ben's study last night, right where Lisa helped him hide it." The doors opened, and I stepped into the hallway, ready to walk down the aisle toward the man who thought he was about to win everything. Little did he know, Dad's final game was about to come to an end. And I was holding all the winning pieces. The wedding march echoed through the church as I stood at the entrance, my uncle's arm linked with mine. Ahead, 200 guests filled the pews, their heads turning to catch their first glimpse of the bride. Ben stood at the altar, handsome in his tuxedo, beaming with what anyone else would mistake for love. "Last chance to run," Uncle George whispered, patting my hand. I squeezed his arm. "Not a chance." The procession began. Lisa walked ahead of me, each step precise and practiced. She'd always been good at performing. 14 years of friendship had taught me that much. I caught Dallas's eye as I passed the third row. He nodded slightly, patting his jacket pocket where I knew the envelope waited. My heart raced, but my steps remained steady. "You look beautiful," Ben mouthed as I approached. Behind him, the priest smiled warmly, unaware of the storm about to break. My phone buzzed in the hidden pocket Abigail had sewn into my dress. Perfect timing. "Sorry," I whispered, loud enough for the front rows to hear. "I should check that. It might be about Dad's estate." Ben's smile tightened. "Surely it can wait." "The lawyers were very specific about timing," I said, pulling out my phone. "Oh, it's from Lisa." The color drained from both their faces. "Actually," I turned to address our guests, "would everyone mind if I read this? It seems important." Without waiting for a response, I began reading aloud. "Ben, I can't watch you do this. Eleanor deserves to know the truth about us, about last night, about everything." Gasps rippled through the church. Ben stepped forward, reaching for my phone. "Eleanor, this isn't—" "Let me finish," I said sweetly, stepping back. "I love you. I've loved you since that first night 3 months ago. Please don't marry her just for the money. Choose me instead." Lisa swayed on her feet. "I didn't. That wasn't meant to. Send that text?" I finished for her. "No, you didn't. But you wrote it, didn't you? It's still in your drafts folder. I saw it when you left your phone in the bridal suite." Ben grabbed my arm. "Eleanor, let's talk about this privately." I yanked free, like how you and Lisa talked privately in my father's study last night. "The walls are thin, Ben, and you really should check for security cameras before having intimate conversations." More gasps. Someone in the back started filming. "Dallas," I called out, "would you share what's in that envelope?" Dallas stood, hands shaking slightly, as he opened the envelope. "They're photographs," he announced, voice carrying in the stunned silence, "of Ben and Lisa, dating back to 3 months ago, the day after Roland died." Ben lunged for Dallas, but my uncle stepped between them. "Don't," Uncle George warned. "You've done enough." "You don't understand," Ben pleaded, turning to me. "Your father's estate, the conditions of the will, required you to marry me within 6 months of his death to access the full inheritance," I finished. "Yes, I know. Dad was very specific about that, almost like he knew someone might try to take advantage." Lisa burst into tears. "Eleanor, I'm so sorry. We never meant to get caught." I pulled out the pocket watch. Fun fact about my father: he never lost anything in his life. Every misplaced item, every missing paper, it was all part of some elaborate lesson. I opened the watch, revealing a tiny USB drive. "Like this watch, which he knew you'd help Ben hide, Lisa. He wanted me to find it exactly when I did." The priest cleared his throat. "Perhaps we should—" "Oh, we're almost done," I assured him. "I just have one last thing to share." I turned back to the guests. "My father's estate isn't what you think. The money, the properties, they're all going to a charitable foundation, one that specifically helps victims of fraud." Ben staggered. "But the will was another of Dad's games. The real will is on this drive, along with recordings of every conversation you two had about stealing my inheritance." I smiled at their shocked faces. "Dad always said the best trap is one where the prey walks in willingly." "You knew?" Lisa whispered. "You knew all along." "Not all along," I admitted, "but long enough to let you both dig your own graves. Dad taught me that too. Sometimes justice is letting people reveal their true nature." I handed the watch to Uncle George and turned to our guests. "I'm sorry you all came for a wedding, but I hope you'll stay for the reception. Seems a shame to waste all that food and champagne. Consider it a celebration of dodging a bullet instead." As security escorted Ben and Lisa out, Abigail appeared at my side. "That," she said, "was the most badass thing I've ever seen." I watched Ben's retreating back, feeling lighter than I had in months. Dad used to say that revenge is sweetest when served with style. Speaking of style, Dallas joined us, grinning. Wait until they realize those photos are already trending on social media. My phone buzzed again. Another text from Lisa. This one actually sent, "You've ruined everything." I smiled, thinking of Dad's last words to me. "The truth hurts, sweetheart, but lies destroy." Looking at the chaos around me, I couldn't help but agree. The reception hall buzzed with excited chatter as guests rehashed what they'd witnessed. I sat at what should have been the bride and groom's table, sipping champagne with Abigail and Dallas, when an unexpected figure approached. Well, that was quite a show. The voice made me freeze. I hadn't heard it in 20 years. "Mom?" I set down my glass, studying the elegant woman before me. "I don't remember sending you an invitation." Melina smiled, her perfectly painted lips curving up. "Your father did. Before he died." "Of course he did." I laughed bitterly. "Another piece of his grand puzzle?" "May I?" She gestured to an empty chair. When I nodded, she sat, smoothing her navy dress. "You're so much like him. The way you orchestrated everything today." Pure Roland. Orchestrated? Dallas raised an eyebrow. "You mean you planned all of this, Eleanor, even before finding the watch?" I reached for my champagne again. The watch was just confirmation. I'd been suspicious since Dad's funeral. When Ben started asking very specific questions about the estate, I turned to my mother. "But you're not here to compliment my detective skills. Why did Dad invite you?" Melina pulled an envelope from her purse. "Because he knew you'd need this today." Another letter. I was getting tired of surprises. "Better." She slid it across the table. "Proof that Ben's been running this same scheme before, 3 times, to be exact." The envelope contained newspaper clippings and court documents. 3 different women, 3 broken engagements, all involving inheritance claims. "Holy shit," Abigail whispered, reading over my shoulder. "He's a professional con man." "Was," Melina corrected. "Your father made sure this would be his last attempt." "How did Dad know?" I asked, spreading out the papers. "Because I told him." Melina's voice softened. "When I recognized Ben from a fraud investigation I was working on." I looked up sharply. "You're an investigator?" "Private investigator, specializing in romance scams. It's why I left." She met my gaze steadily. "Your father was working on something dangerous back then. He asked me to choose between my career and my family. I chose wrong." A waiter approached with fresh champagne. I waited until he left before responding. "So you've been what? Watching me from afar?" "Watching over you," she corrected. "Roland and we found our way back to being friends years ago. When Ben entered your life, I ran a background check. What I found," she gestured to the documents. "And Lisa?" I asked. "Was she part of his usual routine too?" "No." Melina shook her head. "She was just weak. Fell for his charm, helped him access information about your father's estate. She probably thought she was special." Dallas snorted. "Speaking of special, you should see what people are saying online about them." He handed me his phone. Social media was exploding with clips from the ceremony. "Wedding revenge," trending alongside photos of Ben's shocked face. "Dad would have loved this," I murmured. The whole world watching justice unfold. "He did love his audiences," Melina agreed. "But Eleanor, there's more you need to know. About the estate, about why he set up the 6-month marriage clause." A commotion by the entrance cut her off. Lisa had returned. Mascara streaked down her face. "You've had your revenge," she shouted, stumbling slightly. "Are you happy now?" I stood slowly. "Actually, yes, very." "We were friends," Lisa's voice cracked. 14 years, Eleanor. Doesn't that mean anything?" "It meant everything," I replied calmly. "Until you helped my fiancé try to steal my inheritance the day after my father died. He loved me." Lisa took a step forward, but security moved closer. "He only wanted the money so we could be together." I picked up one of the newspaper clippings. "Like he loved Jessica in Seattle? Or Maria in Boston? Or Patricia in Chicago?" I watched comprehension dawn on her face. "You weren't special, Lisa. You were just convenient." She grabbed the clipping, hands shaking. "This can't," he said. "He said what you wanted to hear." I softened my tone. "Just like he did with me and all the others. The difference is, my father saw him coming." Lisa crumpled to the floor, sobbing. As security helped her up, she looked at me one last time. "I really am sorry." "I know." I sat back down, suddenly exhausted. That's what makes it worse. After she was gone, Melina touched my hand. "Your father left you one more thing. When you're ready to hear about it." I studied her face, so familiar, yet strange. "More secrets." "More truth," she corrected. "About why he played these games, why he taught you to solve puzzles, why he knew someone would come for his money." Abigail leaned forward. "Because someone tried before." Melina's expression darkened. "Because someone succeeded. 25 years ago, your father lost everything to a con man. Everything except his most precious possession." She squeezed my hand. "You." I reached for the pocket watch, its weight suddenly more significant. "Then I guess we have a lot to talk about." "Yes," my mother smiled sadly. "We do." The reception hall had emptied, except for a few lingering guests. I sat with my mother in a quiet corner, the pocket watch between us on the table like a barrier. 25 years ago, Melina began, your father was a different man. Trusting, naive, even. Dad, naive? I couldn't imagine it. Hard to believe, isn't it? She traced the watch's edge. He inherited young. His parents died in a car crash when he was 28. Suddenly, he had more money than he knew what to do with. And someone took advantage. His business partner, Marcus. Melina's face hardened. He spent 2 years gaining your father's trust, then orchestrated a complete takeover. Left Roland with nothing but debt and a 3-year-old daughter. Dallas appeared with fresh coffee. "Sorry to interrupt, but Ben's outside causing a scene." "Of course he is." I stood, but Melina caught my arm. "Let security handle it." "No." I pulled free. "I want to hear what he has to say." I found Ben arguing with the guards near the parking lot. He looked disheveled, his perfect wedding appearance now as false as everything else about him. "Eleanor," he pushed past security, "just listen to me." "Why? So you can lie some more?" "It wasn't supposed to happen like this." He ran his hands through his hair. "Lisa wasn't part of the plan. She just complicated things." I laughed. "The plan? You mean like in Seattle? Or Boston?" His face went slack. "How did you—" "My mother's a private investigator, specializes in catching men like you." "Your mother?" He glanced around wildly. "She's here? Amazing what crawls out of the woodwork when you're about to get married, isn't it?" "You don't understand." He stepped closer, lowering his voice. "I had debts, dangerous people. Save it." I held up my hand. "Jessica from Seattle. She told my mother the same story about you, word for word." A car door slammed nearby. Lisa emerged, looking more composed than before. "Perfect timing," I called out. "Ben was just explaining how you complicated his plans." Lisa froze. "What?" "Tell her, Ben." I crossed my arms. "Tell her about the other women, the other inheritances." "He's done this before," Lisa's voice cracked. 3 times. I pulled out my phone, showing her the news articles. Each time, he found a wealthy woman, orchestrated a whirlwind romance, then vanished with whatever he could get before the wedding. "You bastard." Lisa's hand connected with Ben's face in a satisfying crack. "I threw away my best friend for you." "Lisa, baby, please." Ben reached for her, but she backed away. "Don't baby me." She turned to me, tears streaming. "Eleanor, I know I don't deserve it, but there's something you should know about your father's study." Ben lunged forward. "Shut up." "There's a safe," Lisa continued, dodging him. "Behind the painting of the lighthouse." Ben made me help him look for the combination. I smiled. "The one with the false bottom." They both stared at me. "Dad's first lesson, always have a decoy." I pulled out the USB drive again. "The real safe is under the floorboards, which you'd know if you'd actually managed to open the fake one." "What's in it?" Ben demanded. "Evidence." Melina appeared behind me. Enough to put you away for a very long time. Who the hell are you? Someone who's been watching you for longer than you know. She handed him a business card. I suggest you leave town, tonight, before I send this evidence to my colleagues in Seattle. Ben's face went pale. He backed away, then turned and ran to his car. That's it? Lisa asked. He just gets away. Oh no, I watched his taillights disappear. The police in Seattle are already waiting. Dad made sure of that. Lisa wiped her eyes. Your dad really did think of everything. Almost everything. I faced her. He didn't expect you to betray me. I never meant. She stopped, shaking her head. No more excuses. I was selfish and stupid, and I destroyed the best friendship I've ever had. Yes, you did. The thing is, Lisa continued, when I was helping Ben search the study, I found something else, a letter addressed to you, about your mother. Melina stiffened beside me. I know about the letter, I said. Dad left it with the USB drive. No, this was different. It explained why she really left. Lisa glanced at Melina. It wasn't just about her career choice. It was about Marcus. Marcus? I turned to my mother. The man who stole Dad's money. Melina's face had gone white. We should continue this inside. No, I stood my ground. Tell me now. What does Marcus have to do with you leaving? Because, Melina whispered, he was my brother. And he's the reason I became a private investigator, to stop him from doing to other families what he did to ours. The pocket watch felt heavy in my hand, as pieces of my father's puzzle clicked into place. This wasn't just about Ben or Lisa, or even my inheritance. This was about something much bigger, and we were just getting started. Back in my father's study, I watched Melina pace between the towering bookshelves. The room still smelled like him, leather, old paper, and pipe tobacco. Marcus was brilliant, she said, running her fingers along the spines of leather-bound books. And cruel, he could charm anyone into anything. Like brother, like sister, I couldn't keep the bitterness from my voice. I deserved that. She stopped at Dad's desk. But I never charmed your father. I fell in love with him, despite knowing what Marcus planned. Which was what, exactly? To take everything. She picked up a framed photo of me as a child, sitting on Dad's lap. Roland's parents left him a fortune, but more importantly, they left him connections, business relationships Marcus could exploit. Abigail appeared in the doorway. Sorry to interrupt, but Dallas just got word from Seattle PD. They arrested Ben trying to board a flight to Mexico. Good, I turned back to my mother. Continue. I was supposed to help Marcus, she said, setting down the photo. Get close to Roland, find his weaknesses. Instead, I warned your father, but it was too late. Marcus had already set his plan in motion. So you ran? The accusation hung heavy in the air. I left to track Marcus, to stop him from doing it again. She pulled out her phone, showing me a database of faces. Every con artist, every scammer I've caught. It was all to make up for what my brother did. Except Marcus himself. He's good at disappearing, she sighed. Until now. I sat up straighter. What do you mean? Your father's last message to me. She pulled out an envelope, weathered and creased. Marcus is back in town. Has been for months. The letter Lisa mentioned. No, this is different. She handed me the envelope. Roland wrote this the day before he died. I opened it with trembling fingers. Melina, he's found me. More importantly, he's found Eleanor. Watch Ben. He's Marcus's protege. The wedding is their endgame. Keep her safe. R. Ben works for Marcus. My voice cracked. Worked, Melina corrected. Marcus trains young con men, sets them up with marks, takes a cut of their scores. Ben was his latest project. A noise from the hallway made us turn. Lisa stood there, pale but determined. I can help, she said. I know things about Ben's operation, about Marcus. Haven't you helped enough? Abigail stepped between us. Let her speak, I said quietly. Lisa entered, clutching her phone. Ben kept records, photos, messages, meeting locations. He was paranoid about Marcus betraying him. She laughed hollowly, ironic. right? Show me, Melina demanded. Lisa pulled up a series of encrypted messages. Ben gave me his password last night. Said I might need it if things went wrong. He was planning to run, I realized, even before I exposed him. With me, Lisa whispered. He promised we'd start over somewhere else. I was stupid enough to believe him. Melina studied the messages. These are Marcus's protocols, meeting spots, code words. This could help us find him. Why would you help us? I asked Lisa. Because I owe you, she met my eyes. And because Ben used me just like he used you. Like Marcus used all of us. My phone buzzed. A text from Dallas. You need to see the news, now. I pulled up a local news site. The headline made my blood run cold. Local business mogul found dead in hotel room. Marcus, Melina breathed, reading over my shoulder. He staged his own death. How can you be sure? Because this is what he does. She grabbed her coat. He's making his exit, which means he's coming for the money, I finished. Dad's real fortune. What real fortune? Lisa asked. I thought it all went to charity. I walked to the lighthouse painting, swinging it aside to reveal the fake safe. Dad's last puzzle. The charity foundation is real, but it's not getting everything. I knelt, prying up the floorboard beneath the safe. There's another account, one Marcus never found 25 years ago. Inside the hidden compartment lay a single key card. Offshore? Melina asked. I nodded. Dad's insurance policy. He knew Marcus would return someday. So what now? Abigail asked. I stood, clutching the key card. Now we set a trap. Marcus thinks he's orchestrating some grand finale. I smiled, feeling my father's spirit in the room. Let's give him one he'll never forget. Eleanor, Melina warned. Marcus is dangerous. So am I. I pocketed the card. Dad taught me every trick, every puzzle, every game for a reason. He knew this day would come. Lisa stepped forward. I know I don't deserve to ask, but let me help. Please, let me make this right. I studied her face, the guilt, the determination, the fear. Okay, I said finally. But remember, betray me again, and what I did to Ben will look like a kindness. She nodded solemnly. Good. I turned to my mother. Time to finish what you started 25 years ago. Outside, thunder rolled across the sky. A storm was coming, and we would be ready. The storm raged outside as we gathered in my father's study, preparing our trap. Dallas had brought his laptop, and Lisa was logging into Ben's accounts. There, Lisa said, pointing to a calendar entry. Marcus has a standing reservation at the Golden Crown Hotel every Thursday, private dining room. Tomorrow, Melina noted. Convenient. Too convenient, I agreed. He wants us to find this. Abigail leaned forward. So we're walking into a trap? No, I smiled. He's walking into ours. I pulled out my father's pocket watch. Dad left us everything we need. We just have to follow his breadcrumbs. The watch's hidden compartment contained more than the USB drive. Behind it was a tiny key, the safety deposit box. Melina breathed. Roland told me about it years ago. Which bank? Dallas asked, fingers hovering over his keyboard. First National, I said. Dad's old friend Thomas still works there. The one who helped him hide his money from Marcus? Lisa asked. I nodded. We need to move fast. That death notice won't keep Marcus hidden for long. A crack of lightning illuminated the study, followed by a power flicker. When the lights stabilized, Melina was holding her phone. Just got a text from my contact at the morgue, she said. The body identified as Marcus. Dental records were falsified. Of course they were. I stood, pacing like Dad used to. He's playing dead to throw off suspicion. Meanwhile, he'll try to access the account before anyone realizes he's alive. But he needs both signatures, Abigail pointed out. Yours and your father's. No, I stopped at Dad's desk. He needs mine and my mother's. Dad changed the authorization 3 months ago. Melina's head snapped up. What? That's why he invited you to the wedding. I pulled out the letter Lisa had mentioned earlier. He knew Marcus would make his move soon, knew we'd need to work together to stop him. Eleanor, Melina's voice cracked. I never meant to abandon you. I know, now. I handed her the letter. Dad explained everything, about how Marcus threatened to hurt me if you didn't leave, about how you've been protecting me from afar all these years. Lisa's phone chimed. Ben's been processed in Seattle. He's talking to prosecutors. Good. I turned to Dallas. How's the online situation? Twitter's still buzzing about the wedding. News of Marcus's death is trending locally. He grinned. Perfect cover for whatever we're planning. Thunder crashed again as I laid out my father's last puzzle pieces on his desk. The watch, the key card, the safety deposit box key, and a small notebook I'd found hidden in his library. Marcus thinks he knows everything about Dad's fortune, I said. But he only knows what Dad wanted him to know. The real money. It's been moving for 25 years, growing, splitting into new accounts. Like a hydra, Melina mused. Cut off one head, 2 more appear. I opened the notebook. Every transaction, every transfer created a new trail. Dad made it impossible for anyone to take everything at once. Unless they had all the keys, Lisa realized. And all the right people. I looked at my mother. Marcus needs both of us to access the main account. He'll try to manipulate that somehow. The hotel meeting, Abigail said. He'll expect you to show up looking for answers about Ben. Exactly. I turned to Lisa. That's where you come in. Me. Marcus doesn't know we've caught Ben. Doesn't know you've turned on him. I met her eyes. You're our wild card. Lisa straightened. What do you need me to do? Play the grieving other woman. Tell Marcus that Ben betrayed you, that you want revenge. I smiled grimly. Make him think you're as desperate and greedy as he is. While we set up the real trap, Melina added, catching on. Another lightning flash, another power flicker. In that brief darkness, I felt my father's presence, guiding us through his final game. Tomorrow night, I said, Marcus thinks he's finishing what he started 25 years ago. Instead, he's going to learn why Dad always said the best revenge takes patience. And family, Melina added softly. I reached for her hand across the desk. For the first time in 20 years, I felt complete. Daughter, mother, father's legacy, all aligned against a common enemy. Dallas, start the digital trail. Make it look like we're panicking about Marcus's death. I turned to Lisa. You'll need to prepare your story. Make it convincing. Trust me, she said. I know exactly how to play a woman scorned by lies. Abigail, you're our eyes outside the hotel. Any sign of Marcus's real crew, you alert us immediately. What about me? Melina asked. I picked up the pocket watch, its steady ticking a reminder of Dad's patience, his planning, his love. You and I, Mom, are going to remind Marcus why he should have left our family alone. I opened the watch one last time, revealing a final hidden compartment with a small note inside. The game isn't over until all the players learn their lesson. Love, Dad. Tomorrow, Marcus would learn his. And this time, our family would win together. The Golden Crown Hotel's private dining room felt like a stage set for the final act of a play. I sat across from Marcus, studying the face that had haunted my family for 25 years. He looked older than his photos, but his eyes held the same calculating gleam. My dear niece, he smiled, pouring wine. Finally, we meet. Spare me the family reunion act, I said. Where's Ben? Arrested, I hear. Shame. He sipped his wine. He had such potential. Through my earpiece, I heard Abigail's voice. Lisa's in position. Melina's ready. You trained him well, I said. The crying about dangerous debts was especially convincing. Marcus laughed. He always did overplay that part. But then, you'd know all about playing parts, wouldn't you? He pulled out his phone, showing me security footage of last night's meeting in Dad's study. Planning your little trap? My heart stopped, but I kept my face neutral. Dad's first rule, never let them see you sweat. Did you really think I wouldn't have the house monitored? He leaned forward. I've been watching you for months, Eleanor. You're so much like your father. always thinking 3 steps ahead. 4, actually. I took out the key card. This is what you want, isn't it? Access to Dad's real fortune? Smart girl. He reached for it, but I pulled back. First, tell me why. Why come back now? Because Roland's dead. He shrugged. No point playing the long game when the main player's gone. Sir? A waiter appeared. There's a young woman insisting on seeing you. Says her name is Lisa. Right on cue. Send her in, Marcus said, looking amused. Let me guess, another part of your trap? Lisa burst in, mascara perfectly smeared. You bastard. You promised Ben would be safe. Marcus's smile faltered slightly. This wasn't part of his script. He told me everything, Lisa continued, her performance flawless. About the other girls, the cons, how you take half of everything. She threw a stack of papers on the table, including these account numbers. Marcus grabbed the papers, his composure cracking. Where did you get these? Ben's insurance policy. Lisa smiled through her tears. He said if anything happened to him, I should release them to the FBI. You're bluffing. Check your phone, I suggested. He did. His face went pale as notifications poured in. His fake accounts being flagged. His aliases being exposed. What have you done? He whispered. Me? Nothing. I stood slowly. But Dad, he's been busy even after death. The doors opened again. Melina walked in, followed by 2 FBI agents. Hello, brother. Marcus lunged for the exit, but security blocked his path. Marcus Thompson, one agent announced. You're under arrest for fraud, money laundering, and conspiracy. You can't prove anything, he snarled. Actually, Melina held up a USB drive. We can. Every transaction, every con, every identity you've stolen. Dad didn't just leave breadcrumbs, he left a whole digital trail. Dad, Marcus laughed. He's not your father anymore, then I'm still your brother. No, I agreed. Family is about loyalty. Something you never understood. As the agents cuffed him, Marcus turned to me. You think this is over? That fortune is still out there. Others will come for it. Let them try. I showed him the key card. But they should know, it's a fake. Just like your death notice. The real accounts, Melina added, were transferred this morning to the charity foundation Dad set up. All except one, I said, a trust fund. For victims of financial fraud. Marcus struggled against the handcuffs. You're lying. Like father, like daughter. I smiled. He taught me everything about playing the long game. Lisa stepped forward, including how to spot a fake security feed. She held up her phone, showing the real footage from Dad's study, completely empty last night. Marcus's face contorted with rage. You planned this, all of it. No, I said. Dad did. 25 years ago, when you first betrayed him. Every puzzle, every game he taught me, it was all preparation for this moment. The agents led him toward the door. He stopped, turning back one last time. Roland would be proud, he spat. You're just as manipulative as I am. No, Melina said quietly. She's better, because she uses it to protect people, not destroy them. After Marcus was gone, Lisa collapsed into a chair. I can't believe that worked. Dad always said the best cons are based on truth, I said. Marcus was so convinced he knew our plan. He never saw the real one coming. Speaking of plans, Abigail's voice came through our earpieces. Dallas says Ben's agreed to testify. Marcus's whole network is about to fall. I touched the pocket watch in my jacket. Dad used to say revenge is a dish best served with family. Melina hugged me. And for the first time since I was 3, I let myself feel safe in my mother's arms. Now what? Lisa asked. I looked at the dining room, where moments ago my father's greatest enemy had finally faced justice. Now, I said, we honor Dad's real legacy by helping others protect themselves from men like Marcus. Outside, the storm had cleared, and sunlight streamed through the windows. The game was finally over, and we had won. The autumn breeze rustled through the cemetery, as I placed fresh flowers on Dad's grave. The marble headstone gleamed in the morning sun, his favorite quote etched below his name. Life's greatest puzzle is knowing who to trust. He would have loved yesterday, Melina said, standing beside me. The look on Marcus's face when he realized he'd been outplayed by his own sister and niece, I smiled, touching the headstone, using his own tactics against him. My phone buzzed, a news alert about Marcus's arrest. The story had exploded overnight, with dozens of his former victims coming forward. Ben's testimony had opened a floodgate of evidence. Eleanor? Lisa's voice carried across the cemetery. She approached cautiously, holding a small box. I found this in Ben's apartment. I think it belongs to you. Inside the box was a collection of photographs. Me and Lisa, growing up, playing in Dad's library, solving his puzzles together. He used these to study us, Lisa said quietly, to learn how to manipulate both of us. But he failed. I handed the photos back to her. Keep them. Remember why we can't let people like him win. I don't deserve your forgiveness. No, I agreed. But Dad always said true strength is knowing when to extend grace, even to those who hurt us. Abigail and Dallas appeared, carrying coffee and pastries. The foundation paperwork is finished, Dallas announced. Roland's legacy is officially operational. First order of business, Abigail added, helping the Seattle victims recover their losses. I pulled out Dad's pocket watch, its familiar weight now comforting rather than condemning. Dad used to say that money is just paper, but trust is priceless. Speaking of trust, Melina said, there's something you should see. She handed me a worn envelope. Your father wrote this the day you were born. The letter inside was short. My dearest Eleanor, by the time you read this, you'll understand why every game, every puzzle, every lesson was necessary, not just to protect you from Marcus, but to show you that true wealth isn't in bank accounts or property deeds. It's in the family we choose, the trust we earn, and the legacy we leave behind. I love you, puzzle girl. Dad. He knew. I whispered. He knew someday I'd need to understand why he raised me the way he did. He knew you'd need to be stronger than Marcus, Melina said. Smarter than Ben, more resilient than any of them. Lisa wiped her eyes, and more forgiving than most people would be. The foundation's first meeting is this afternoon, Dallas reminded us. The board's waiting to meet their new director. I looked at the small group gathered around my father's grave. My mother, who'd spent 20 years protecting me from afar. Lisa, seeking redemption through helping others. Abigail and Dallas, whose loyalty never wavered. Dad's last puzzle wasn't about catching Marcus, I realized. It was about bringing us all together, creating something good from something bad, like turning a failed wedding into a fraud prevention foundation. Abigail grinned. Exactly, I tucked the watch into my pocket. Ready to help some people get their lives back? As we walked to our cars, Lisa caught my arm. I've been thinking about what you said, about grace. I want to help, really help, not just with the foundation, but with finding other victims. I know how these scams work now. Good, I squeezed her hand, because we've got work to do. At the foundation's office, a crowd of Marcus's victims waited. Their faces showed the same pain I'd seen in my father's eyes 25 years ago. The hurt of betrayal, the shame of being fooled. Welcome to Roland's legacy, I announced, standing before them. My father lost everything to a con man once, but he taught me that what matters isn't what we lose, but what we build from the ashes. I saw hope replace despair in their eyes, as I explained how we'd help them recover, rebuild, and protect themselves. The best revenge, I continued, isn't taking everything from your enemies. It's using their weapons to help others fight back. Melina joined me at the podium. Together, we'll turn victims into survivors, and maybe, along the way, help other families avoid what ours went through. As the meeting progressed, I felt Dad's presence in every word, every plan, every promise to help. His games had prepared me not just for Marcus, but for this, turning pain into purpose, betrayal into strength. The pocket watch ticked steadily in my pocket. No longer a tool of revenge, but a reminder of love's endurance, of family's power to heal. Dad's final game was complete, but his legacy, it was just beginning. And this time, we'd write the rules together.
The envelope felt heavy in my hands, despite containing just a single sheet of paper. My father's stern expression told me everything I needed to know before I even opened it. This wasn't going to be a Merry Christmas Eve. I'm Zuriel, and this was the moment my family decided I wasn't worth keeping around. Well, aren't you going to open it? My sister Michaela's sugary sweet voice cut through the tension in our family's living room. She sat perched on the arm of Mom's favorite leather chair, already wearing the diamond bracelet they'd given her moments earlier. The crackling fireplace and twinkling Christmas tree felt like a mockery now. I carefully broke the seal, aware of 4 pairs of eyes boring into me. The lawyer, Ernest, shifted uncomfortably in his seat. Not exactly your typical holiday guest. I don't understand, I said, my voice surprisingly steady as I read the document. You're cutting me out of the will completely? Mom, Vanessa to her society friends didn't even look up from her wine glass. It's for the best, dear. You've made your choices and we've made ours. My choices? I laughed, but it came out hollow. You mean starting my own business instead of joining the family company? A bakery. Dad's voice dripped with disdain. We spent a fortune on your education, and you want to spend your life making cupcakes. They're not just cupcakes, Dad. It's my dream. Dreams don't pay bills. He cut me off. Michaela understands responsibility. She's already showing real promise at the firm. My sister's smirk grew wider. Don't be dramatic, Zuri. You knew this was coming. I mean, what did you expect? I folded the paper carefully, my hands trembling slightly. The Christmas tree lights reflected off the glossy paper, creating dancing patterns that reminded me of the sparklers we used to wave around as kids, back when family meant something different. Actually, I stood up, smoothing my dress. I expected better from my parents. Silly me. Now, Zuriel, Ernest intervened. Perhaps we could discuss this after the holidays. There's nothing to discuss. Mom's voice was ice. The decision is final. I walked to the coat rack, pulling on my winter jacket. The wool felt scratchy against my neck, or maybe that was just the lump forming in my throat. Where are you going? Dad demanded. We haven't even had dinner yet. I've lost my appetite. I reached for my purse, pausing at the doorway. You know what's funny? You all think you're punishing me, but really... I smiled, thinking about the secret I'd been keeping. You might be punishing yourselves more than you realize. What's that supposed to mean? Michaela stood up, her perfectly manicured brows furrowing. Merry Christmas, I said, ignoring her question. And good luck. Something tells me you're going to need it. The heavy oak door closed behind me with a satisfying thud. Outside, snow was falling softly, muffling the sound of Christmas carols drifting from neighboring houses. I pulled out my phone and dialed a familiar number. Natasha? Yeah, it's done. They did exactly what we expected. I walked to my car, boots crunching in the fresh snow. No, I'm okay. Actually, I'm better than okay. Remember that thing we talked about? I think it's time. As I drove away from my childhood home, I couldn't help but smile. They thought they were writing me out of their story, but they had no idea. I was about to become the author of their downfall. My phone buzzed with a text from Michaela. Hope you're happy with yourself. You've ruined Christmas. I typed back quickly. On the contrary, sis, this is the best Christmas gift I could have gotten. Freedom. Turning onto the main road, I headed toward downtown, where my real future waited. The family might have their precious will, but I had something better. A plan. And thanks to their own oversight, I had the means to execute it perfectly. The vacation house they'd carelessly left in my name years ago would fund my dreams, and their nightmare. They just didn't know it yet. Some legacies aren't inherited, I whispered to myself, watching the family mansion shrink in my rearview mirror. They're built from scratch, just like the perfect cake. The snow kept falling, covering my tire tracks, erasing any trace of my presence from their perfectly manicured driveway. By this time next year, everything would be different. And I couldn't wait to serve them their just desserts. 3 months earlier, I stood in front of the lakeside vacation house, key in hand, while Natasha whistled low beside me. And they seriously forgot this was in your name? She ran her hand along the pristine siding. A whole-ass vacation house? Dad put it in my name 5 years ago for tax purposes. I unlocked the door, breathing in the musty air. They haven't used it in 3 years, probably don't even remember it exists. The interior was exactly as I remembered. All pine furniture and nautical decorations, frozen in time like a perfectly preserved museum of family memories I no longer wanted. How much do you think it's worth? Natasha asked, peeking through the lakefront windows. I pulled out my phone, showing her the realtor's estimate. Her eyes widened. Holy shit, Zuriel. That's enough to open my bakery and then some. I smiled, running my fingers along the dusty kitchen counter. The down payment, equipment, first year's rent, everything. Your parents are going to lose their minds when they find out. That's the best part. They won't find out until it's too late. I opened the fridge, grimacing at the ancient condiments inside. The property transfer was legal. They signed it over to me fair and square. Natasha flopped onto the couch, sending up a cloud of dust. Okay, walk me through this master plan of yours again. Simple. I sell the house, use the money to open the Dreamweaver bakery, and still think that name's a bit much. Shut up, it's perfect. I threw a dusty throw pillow at her. Anyway, I open the bakery, establish myself, and wait. Wait for what? For karma to do its thing. I sat beside her. See, what my family doesn't know is that their precious company is in trouble. Big trouble. How do you know that? Remember my friend Brett? He works in commercial banking. Let's just say their last loan application wasn't exactly approved. The next few weeks were a blur of real estate agents, paperwork, and secret meetings. The house sold faster than expected. Turns out lakefront property is quite desirable, even in need of updating. You're really doing this, Brett said over coffee one morning, reviewing my business plan. I've got to admit, when you first mentioned it, I thought you were just venting. People always underestimate me, I replied, sliding him a sample of my latest recipe. Try this. He took a bite of the lavender honey cake and closed his eyes. Okay, scratch that. You're definitely doing this. This is incredible. That's not even my best recipe. I pulled out my laptop, showing him the location I'd found. What do you think? Downtown, high foot traffic, reasonable rent. He nodded approvingly. You've done your homework, but are you sure you want to burn this bridge with your family? They burned it first. I closed the laptop firmly. Besides, this isn't about revenge. It's about finally doing something for myself. But even as I said it, I couldn't ignore the satisfaction I felt knowing what was coming. The day I signed the lease, Natasha brought champagne to the empty storefront. We sat on the floor, drinking from paper cups. To the Dreamweaver, she toasted. May your revenge be as sweet as your pastries. It's not revenge, I protested weakly. Honey, you're literally using their forgotten vacation house to fund your independence while they're about to face financial ruin. That's some premium revenge right there. I couldn't argue with that. The contractors started work the next day, transforming the space into my vision. Every decision felt like a step further from my family's shadow. The warm copper light fixtures, the exposed brick walls, the custom display cases. The morning we installed the sign, I stood across the street, watching the gold letters catch the sunlight. The Dreamweaver Bakery and Cafe. My dream. My name. My rules. My phone buzzed. A text from Michaela. Mom and Dad are worried about you. They say you're not returning their calls. I typed back. Been busy. Big things happening. Whatever. Just don't come crying to us when your little hobby fails. I smiled, pocketing my phone as the first delivery of professional equipment arrived. Let them think I was playing at business. Let them dismiss me one last time. Where do you want the ovens? The delivery man called out. Against that wall, I pointed, where everyone walking by can see them through the windows. Because that was part of the plan too. letting success speak for itself. In 3 months, this place would be impossible to ignore, especially from the windows of my family's law firm just 2 blocks away. The sweet smell of karma was already in the air, and soon it would be baking. We've got another line out the door. Sarah, my newest hire, called from the front, and 3 more wedding cake consultations just booked online. I wiped the flour from my hands and peeked through the kitchen door. The morning sun streamed through our front windows, illuminating a queue of eager customers that stretched past the neighboring shops. 3 months in, and the Dreamweaver had become the talk of downtown. Your red velvet cake just got featured on Food & Wine's Instagram, Brett announced, walking in through the back door. He'd taken to stopping by most mornings, usually with local business news and a hungry look in his eyes. Here. I handed him a fresh cranberry orange scone. Payment for being my unofficial business advisor. Speaking of business, he lowered his voice, glancing around. Word on the street is your family's firm isn't doing so hot. They've had to let go of 3 junior partners already. I concentrated on piping delicate roses onto a wedding cake sample. Is that so? You know, most people would feel bad about their family struggling. Most people's families wouldn't disown them over following their dreams. I set down the piping bag. Besides, I warned them, sort of. The bell above the door chimed, and I heard Natasha's familiar laugh. Oh my God, you have to see this, she called out, waving her phone. The local paper just published their Best of Downtown list. Guess who's number 1 in the food category? Before I could answer, my phone buzzed. Michaela's name flashed on the screen. Well, I muttered, answering. To what do I owe the pleasure? Is it true? She didn't bother with hello. You're the one who bought that building on 3rd Street? I smiled, remembering the offer I'd made last week. The success of the Dreamweaver had left me with enough capital to start investing in real estate. Actually, I'm in the process of buying 3 buildings on 3rd Street. Why? She paused. That's where Dad was planning to expand the firm. Oh, really? I sprinkled edible gold dust on a batch of macarons. Guess he'll have to find somewhere else. Property values are crazy downtown these days. You're doing this on purpose, aren't you? Doing what? Running a successful business? Making smart investments? Isn't that what you all wanted me to do? The line went quiet for a moment. Mom wants to know if you'll come to dinner next week. Sorry, can't. I'm catering the mayor's daughter's wedding. But hey, feel free to stop by the bakery sometime. We make an amazing humble pie. After hanging up, I turned to find Brett and Natasha staring at me. That was cold, Brett said, but he was grinning. That was perfect, Natasha corrected. But you never told me about the buildings on 3rd Street. Because I just finalized the paperwork this morning. I pulled out a folder from under the counter. 3 historic buildings, prime location, and guess who's going to be my first tenant? Who? That artisanal coffee roaster you love. They're opening their flagship store. I showed them the lease agreement. Between their rent and the Dreamweaver's profits, I'll be able to buy 2 more properties by year's end. While your family's firm downsizes, Brett mused. That's some masterful chess you're playing. A commotion from the front interrupted us. Through the kitchen window, I spotted my mother's perfectly coiffed hair in the crowd. Speaking of chess, I muttered. Showtime! I stepped into the front, watching as she took in the bustling cafe, the elegant decor, the happy customers. Her expression shifted from disdain to surprise to something that looked almost like regret. Zuriel, she said stiffly. This is unexpected. Hi, Mom. What can I get you? Our signature dream cake is featured in Food & Wine this month. She flinched at my casual tone. Your father and I need to discuss something with you. Something important. I'm pretty busy here. I gestured to the full cafe. You know how it is, running a successful business and all. Please, she said, and for the first time in years, I heard a crack in her perfect facade. It's about the firm. We need your help. I let the words hang in the air, savoring them like the perfect bite of dessert. Behind her, Natasha was practically vibrating with anticipation. "Well," I said finally, "I do have a cancellation for my last appointment today. I could meet you at 5. I paused, then added with a sweet smile, "At my office, of course." Mom's eyes darted around the bakery, my bakery, and she nodded stiffly. As she left, Natasha sidled up to me. "You're going to make them grovel, right?" I watched my mother's retreating form through the window, remembering Christmas Eve, remembering years of dismissal and disappointment. "No," I said, turning back to my customers. "I'm going to make them eat cake." At exactly 5 o'clock, my parents walked into the Dreamweaver. The evening sun cast long shadows through the windows, and I'd closed early, sending my staff home. Only Natasha remained, pretending to clean tables while eavesdropping shamelessly. "Would you like some tea?" I offered, gesturing to the vintage tea set I'd arranged. "It's Earl Grey. Your favorite, Mom." "This isn't a social call," Dad snapped, but Mom put a hand on his arm. "Tea would be lovely," she said, settling into one of the copper-backed chairs. Her eyes kept darting around the bakery, taking in the fresh flowers, the gleaming display cases, the wall of press clippings. I poured 3 cups, adding a plate of lavender shortbread. "So, what brings you to my little hobby?" Dad's jaw tightened. "We need to discuss a business proposition." "Business?" I raised an eyebrow. I thought making cupcakes wasn't a real business. "Things have changed," Mom said carefully. "The firm is facing some temporary difficulties." "Temporary?" I took a sip of tea. "That's not what I heard. I heard you've laid off staff, lost major clients, and your credit rating is in the toilet." "How did you—" Dad started, then his eyes narrowed. "Brett, that little snake." "Brett's a friend. Unlike family, friends actually look out for each other." Mom set down her cup with a clatter. "We're here because we need a partner, someone with liquid assets and business acumen." I couldn't help but laugh. "Business acumen? 3 months ago, you said I was throwing my life away." "We were wrong," Mom said quietly, and for a moment I almost believed her. "What you've built here? It's impressive." "Very impressive," Dad added, though it clearly pained him. "The mayor's daughter's wedding, the press coverage, the property investments." "Ah," I interrupted. "So this is about 3rd Street." "Among other things." He pulled out a folder. "We're prepared to offer you a partnership in the firm. Full voting rights, equal share with Michaela." I took the folder but didn't open it. "And what makes you think I'd want that?" "Because it's your legacy," Mom insisted. "Your birthright." "My legacy?" I stood up, walking to the wall of press clippings. "This is my legacy. Those buildings on 3rd Street? My legacy. This bakery that you said would fail? That's my legacy." "The firm is struggling," Dad admitted, his voice rough. "Without an injection of capital? You'll lose everything," I finished. Funny how karma works, isn't it? From her spot by the tables, Natasha didn't even pretend not to be listening anymore. "What do you want?" Mom asked, desperation creeping into her voice. "Name your price." I turned back to them, leaning against the counter. "You really don't get it, do you? This isn't about money. This is about respect. Recognition. Everything you never gave me. We're giving it now." Dad's fist hit the table, rattling the teacups. "No, you're not. You're here because you're desperate. Because your perfect daughter, Michaela, can't save you, and your backup plan just bought the buildings you needed." Mom's face paled. "The vacation house. That's how you funded all this." "The vacation house you forgot was in my name?" "Yes. Turns out I'm pretty good at managing assets when people underestimate me." "You planned this," Dad accused. "All of it." "No, you planned this. Every time you dismissed my dreams, every time you favored Michaela, every time you tried to force me into your mold." I opened the folder, scanned the partnership offer, then slowly tore it in half. I just adapted. "You're enjoying this," Mom whispered, "watching us suffer." "Actually, I'm not." I gathered the torn papers. I'm just finally standing up for myself. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have a wedding cake to finish. They stood, Dad's face red with anger, Mom's with shame. At the door, she turned back. "What about family?" she asked. "Doesn't that mean anything to you?" It meant everything to me, until Christmas Eve when you showed me exactly how little it meant to you. After they left, Natasha let out a long whistle. That was intense. "It's not over," I said, starting to clear the tea service. "They'll be back." And nothing. The firm can sink or swim on its own. I'm done playing their games. My phone buzzed. A text from Michaela. "How dare you turn them down? They were trying to make peace." I typed back. "No, they were trying to save themselves. Big difference. By the way, how's that corner office working out?" Natasha read the exchange over my shoulder. "You know what this calls for?" "What?" She grinned, pulling out 2 forks. "Revenge cake." We spent the next hour eating leftover wedding cake samples and planning my next property acquisition. Sometimes the sweetest revenge isn't about destroying your enemies. It's about succeeding so spectacularly they have to watch from the sidelines. "They're filing for bankruptcy," Brett announced, bursting into my office early Monday morning. "Your family's firm. It's happening." I looked up from the stack of invoices I'd been reviewing. "Already? I thought they'd last at least another month." 3 major clients pulled out last week. Word got around about their financial troubles, and he made a diving motion with his hand. It's like watching dominoes fall. My phone lit up with a call from Michaela. I put it on speaker. "This is your fault," she shrieked before I could say hello. "You did this to us. Actually, Mika, you did this to yourselves. I just refused to save you. Mom's a mess. Dad hasn't left his study in 2 days. Is this what you wanted?" I signed the last invoice, pushing it aside. What I wanted was a family that supported me. What I got was disowned on Christmas Eve. Funny how life works out. "We're having a family dinner tonight," she said, her voice suddenly controlled. "You need to come." "Need to? I don't need to do anything." "Please," she whispered, and for the first time since we were kids, I heard genuine emotion in her voice. Everything's falling apart. I glanced at Brett, who shrugged. "Fine. What time?" 7? And Zuriel? Leave your attitude at that bakery of yours." I hung up, turning to Brett. "Want to be my backup?" He shook his head. "This is family business, but text me if you need an escape plan." At 7 sharp, I pulled up to my childhood home. The mansion looked different somehow. Smaller, less intimidating. Like seeing a childhood monster in daylight and realizing it's just a shadow. Michaela opened the door before I could knock. "They're in the dining room. Try not to make things worse." "Lovely to see you too, sis." The dining room was a museum of uncomfortable memories. Formal dinners, lectures about responsibility, countless disappointments. Mom and Dad sat at opposite ends of the massive table, a feast laid out between them. "You came," Mom said softly. "I'm curious by nature." I took my old seat. "So, what's this about?" Dad cleared his throat. "We've made mistakes, serious mistakes." "The firm," Mom started. "I know about the bankruptcy," I interrupted. "Brett told me this morning." "Of course he did," Michaela muttered. "We've lost everything," Dad continued. "The house will have to be sold. The cars, the vacation homes." "Home," I corrected. "Singular. I already sold the lake house, remember?" Mom flinched. "We deserve that. But Zuriel, we're still family." "Are we? Because the last time we had dinner together, you handed me disinheritance papers as a Christmas gift." "We were wrong," Dad said, and the admission hung heavy in the air. "About everything. The firm, your bakery, you. The Dreamweaver is worth more than the firm now," Michaela added bitterly. "Happy?" I pushed my untouched plate away. "What do you want from me?" "A chance," Mom said. "To make things right. To be a family again. And the fact that I'm successful now has nothing to do with it?" "We're not asking for money," Dad insisted. "No?" I raised an eyebrow. Then what are you asking for? Forgiveness, Mom whispered. A fresh start. I stood up, walking to the window. Outside, the garden where I'd once dreamed of having my wedding was overgrown. Another casualty of their financial collapse. You know what's ironic? I turned back to them. If you'd supported my dream from the beginning, I probably would have helped you now. But you made me prove myself by fighting you every step of the way. We know, Dad said. And we're sorry. Sorry doesn't fix years of dismissal. Sorry doesn't erase Christmas Eve. Sorry doesn't... Then tell us what will, Michaela burst out. Tell us how to fix this. I looked at each of them. Mom's perfectly maintained facade cracking, Dad's proud shoulders slumped, Michaela's mascara-stained cheeks. Time, I said finally. Time and proof that you've actually changed. Not because you need something from me, but because you actually understand what you did wrong. And until then? Mom asked. I reached into my bag, pulling out a small box. Until then, you can have this. It's a new recipe I've been working on. I call it Humble Beginnings. Dark chocolate with a hint of bitterness covered in gold leaf. Is this a joke? Michaela asked. No, I replied, heading for the door. It's a reminder. Sometimes you have to lose everything to appreciate what you had. Zuriel, Dad called after me. Will we see you again? I paused in the doorway. The bakery's open Tuesday through Sunday, 9 to 6. You know where to find me. Walking out, I felt lighter somehow. Not because I'd forgiven them, that would take time, but because finally, after all these years, they were the ones watching me walk away. The morning after the family dinner, I arrived at the Dreamweaver to find Michaela waiting outside, still wearing yesterday's clothes. Have you been here all night? I asked, unlocking the door. No, just since 5. She followed me in, dark circles under her eyes. I've been thinking about what you said, about proof. I started my morning routine, firing up the ovens and checking the prep list. And? I want a job. The measuring cup I was holding clattered to the counter. Excuse me? I want to work here. For you. She straightened her shoulders. I need to understand. Understand what? Everything. How you did this. How you knew it would work. How you're so confident now. I studied her face for any sign of manipulation. You've never worked a service job in your life. I know. She swallowed hard. I'll start at the bottom, washing dishes, sweeping floors, whatever you need. Why should I trust you? Because I have nothing left to lose. Her voice cracked. The firm's gone. My savings are gone. My apartment? She trailed off. Let me guess. Dad was paying for it? She nodded miserably. Fine. I tossed her an apron. Start by wiping down all the tables. Then we'll talk. For the next few hours, I watched my perfectly manicured sister scrub tables, mop floors, and learn to operate the industrial dishwasher. She didn't complain once. Your hands are bleeding, I noticed during the lunch rush. She looked down at her cracked red knuckles. It's fine. I deserve worse. Here. I handed her some hand cream. First lesson of service work. Take care of yourself or you can't take care of business. The bell above the door chimed and Mom walked in. She froze at the sight of Michaela in an apron, serving coffee to customers. What are you doing? She asked, horrified. Working, Michaela replied. Table 6 needs more napkins, Zuriel. On it, I called back, watching Mom's reaction. But you're a lawyer. Was a lawyer, Michaela corrected. Now I'm learning how to make an honest living. Mom turned to me. Is this some kind of punishment? No, I said, arranging pastries in the display case. This is her choice. First real one she's ever made, probably. I came to tell you. Mom hesitated. We sold the house. We're moving into a small apartment next week. Good, I replied. Maybe you'll learn something too. Your father's looking for work. Really? What kind? Anything, she admitted. But no one's hiring. Our reputation is exactly what you earned. I finished. Karma's funny that way. The lunch rush picked up and Mom watched as Michaela and I worked in sync, serving customers, making change, keeping the line moving. You're good at this, she said finally. I know. Would you consider hiring Dad? I laughed. Not a chance. But there's a new cafe opening in one of my buildings next month. I'll put in a word with the owner. As what? Dishwasher, probably. Same place Michaela started. Mom's perfectly maintained facade crumbled completely. How did we get here? By believing your own hype, Michaela answered before I could. By thinking we were better than everyone else. By treating Zuriel like she was nothing. Table 8 needs their check, I reminded her. On it, boss. She hurried off, leaving Mom and me alone. She's different, Mom observed. 3 days of honest work will do that to you. I started restocking sugar packets. Are you? Am I what? Different. Really different. Not just desperate for help different. She looked around the bustling cafe, at her youngest daughter serving tables at the empire I'd built from scratch. I'm trying to be. Then try harder. I handed her a business card. That's the cafe owner's number. Tell him I sent you. Dad starts as a dishwasher or not at all. And us? She asked quietly. Will we ever be okay? That depends on you. All of you. I'm done proving myself. It's your turn. After she left, Natasha came in for her usual afternoon coffee. Was that your mom I just passed? Yep. And that's my sister refilling salt shakers. Natasha's jaw dropped. Okay, what alternate universe did I just walk into? The one where Karma finally showed up to work. I handed her a fresh cinnamon roll. Want to help me interview potential tenants for the 3rd Street properties tomorrow? Wouldn't miss it. She glanced at Michaela. Think they'll actually change? Maybe, but that's not my problem anymore. I watched my sister carefully wipe down a table, paying attention to the corners like I'd shown her. My problem is teaching her how to make a proper latte by tomorrow's morning rush. Sometimes revenge isn't about destroying your enemies. Sometimes it's about making them see exactly what they missed out on. One coffee order at a time. 6 months after my sister started washing dishes at the Dreamweaver, I stood in front of my newest acquisition, a 3-story Victorian building on Main Street. The morning sun glinted off the fresh paint and restored windows, highlighting the gold lettering, Dreamweaver Enterprises. Not bad for a girl who just makes cupcakes, Brett said, standing beside me. Speaking of which, Michaela emerged from my car, carrying a box of pastries. She'd traded her designer suits for jeans and practical shoes, and her hands were permanently stained with coffee and flour. The contractors want their usual breakfast order. How's Dad doing at that cafe job? Brett asked her. Still washing dishes, still complaining, but he shows up every day. She shrugged. Mom's actually doing better. She got promoted to shift supervisor at the department store. And you? I turned to her. Ready for your own promotion? She nearly dropped the pastry box. What? I need someone to manage the new location we're opening across town. Someone who understands both the business and service sides. But I've only been here 6 months. 6 months of showing up early, staying late, learning every aspect of the business, and never once complaining about the work. I pulled out a contract. What do you say? Tears welled in her eyes. Why? After everything. Because you earned it. The hard way. The right way. The contractor called out from the building entrance, interrupting our moment. Ms. Zuriel, we need you to approve the final layout for the executive offices. Coming, I called back. Think about it, Mika. Let me know by the end of the week. Inside the building was a maze of activity. Workers installing fixtures, designers arranging furniture, IT people running cables. My empire was growing. Your father's here, my assistant announced, appearing at my elbow. He's in the lobby. I found him standing awkwardly by the reception desk, wearing clothes I'd never seen before. Simple, practical work clothes, his hands rough from months of manual labor. "Nice building," he said gruffly. "Thanks. What brings you here?" He cleared his throat. "I got offered a management position. At the cafe." "Congratulations." I turned it down. I raised an eyebrow. "Why?" "Because I haven't earned it yet." He met my eyes. "You taught me that. The hard way." "Did I?" 6 months ago, I thought I was above washing dishes. Now I know every job matters. Every person matters. He pulled out an envelope. "I wanted you to have this." Inside was a check. Small, but clearly his entire savings. "What's this for?" "The vacation house. I know it was legally yours, but I want to make it right." I studied the check, then slowly tore it in half. "Keep it. You'll need it more than me." "Zuriel, please, let me fix something." "You want to fix something? Keep working, keep learning, keep remembering what it feels like to start from nothing." I handed him the torn check. "That's worth more than money." His eyes were wet when he looked up. "I'm proud of you. I should have said that years ago." "I know, but I needed to hear it when I was struggling, not after I succeeded." Michaela burst in, excitement on her face. "The health department approved the new location. We can start hiring—" "Oh, hi, Dad." "Your sister offered me a job," she told him. "Managing the new store." He smiled, genuinely smiled. "Take it. Learn from her. She's better at business than I ever was." Speaking of business, Brett appeared with a stack of papers. "The mayor wants to meet about that downtown revitalization project, and the Small Business Association wants you to give a keynote speech. Tell them yes to both." I turned back to my father. "I have to go. Actual business meetings to attend." "Of course." He headed for the door, then paused. "Your mother, she'd love to see this place. Tell her to come by sometime, during business hours like any other customer." After he left, Michaela handed me a coffee, made perfectly, just the way I liked it. "You're really not going to make this easy for them, are you?" "They didn't make it easy for me." I took a sip. But at least now they understand why. Brett checked his watch. "Ready for that meeting? Time to show the mayor what a real business empire looks like." I looked around at my growing kingdom. The busy contractors, the gleaming fixtures, the proud logo on the wall. Everything I'd built from scratch, despite every obstacle they'd thrown in my way. "You know what?" I smiled. "I've been ready for this my whole life. They just didn't know it until now. Sometimes the best revenge isn't just success. It's success so complete that your doubters have to acknowledge it every single day. One dish, one coffee, one hard lesson at a time." The local business awards ceremony buzzed with excitement as I adjusted my name tag. Zuriel Fernandez, CEO, Dreamweaver Enterprises. Beside me, Michaela fidgeted with her own. Regional Director. "Stop fussing," I whispered. "You've earned your place here." "Did you know Mom and Dad would be here?" she asked, nodding toward the back of the room where our parents sat, dressed in their new, more modest attire. "They bought tickets like everyone else." I smoothed my dress. "That's progress." Brett appeared, grinning. "They're about to announce Business of the Year. Ready for your speech?" "Speech?" Michaela looked confused. "You think it's a coincidence we're sitting at the front table?" I winked. The mayor stepped up to the podium, tapping the microphone. "Ladies and gentlemen, this year's recipient has transformed our downtown, created hundreds of jobs, and shown us that success comes in many flavors, sometimes literally." Scattered laughter rippled through the crowd. Dreamweaver Enterprises started as a single bakery, defying expectations and conventional wisdom. Today, it encompasses 12 locations, multiple real estate holdings, and a commitment to community development that has revitalized our city center. I stood as my name was called, the applause washing over me. From the corner of my eye, I saw Mom dabbing at tears, Dad sitting straight-backed and proud. "Thank you," I began, reaching into my pocket for my notes. Instead, my fingers found the torn Christmas Eve envelope from that fateful night. I'd carried it with me every day since, a reminder of where I'd started. I said it on the podium. Success isn't inherited, I said, looking directly at my family. It's baked from scratch, with equal parts determination and defiance. Sometimes the people who should believe in you don't, and that's okay. It just means you have to believe in yourself twice as hard. Natasha whooped from her table, making everyone laugh. But success without growth, personal growth, is just numbers on a spreadsheet. Real success is watching people change, including yourself. It's seeing your sister trade privilege for purpose. I smiled at Michaela. It's watching your parents learn humility through honest work. It's building something bigger than revenge. Mom's hand found Dad's, squeezing tight. Dreamweaver started as my dream of independence. Now it's a dream of second chances. For downtown, for our employees, for family. Even for those who once tried to write you out of their story. I picked up the torn envelope. This was my disinheritance paper. I kept it to remind myself of rejection. Now I'm keeping it to remind myself of redemption. Not just mine, but everyone's capacity to change when they are willing to do the work. The applause was deafening as I left the stage. Michaela hugged me, whispering, "That wasn't just about business, was it?" "Nothing ever is," I replied. After the ceremony, Mom and Dad approached our table. Dad spoke first, his voice rough. "Your speech? We don't deserve—" "It's not about deserving," I interrupted. "It's about growing. You both did the work. You're still doing it." "We're so proud," Mom said. "Not of what you built, though that's incredible, but of who you've become." "Even without the family legacy?" I couldn't resist asking. "You built your own legacy," Dad replied. "A better one." "Speaking of building," Michaela chimed in, "should we tell them about the community center project?" I nodded. We're converting one of the downtown buildings into a small business incubator and training center, teaching people how to build their dreams from scratch. "Like washing dishes?" Dad asked, a small smile playing at his lips. "Exactly like that." I turned to Mom. "We need experienced retail managers to teach some of the classes. Interested?" Her eyes widened. "You want me to—" "Teach others what you've learned, about humility, hard work, starting over." "I'd be honored," she whispered. Brett appeared with champagne, passing glasses around. "To Dreamweaver's next chapter?" "No," I said, raising my glass. "To new beginnings, earned, not inherited." As we clinked glasses, I caught Natasha's knowing smile from across the room. She'd been there from the start, watching my revenge plot transform into something more meaningful than mere success. "You know," Michaela said softly, "that Christmas Eve was the best thing that ever happened to this family." "How so?" "It broke us down to nothing, made us rebuild, made us real." I looked around at my empire. Not just the buildings and businesses, but the people. My sister, finding purpose in honest work. My parents, learning humility and pride in equal measure. My friends who believed in me when no one else did. "Real is good," I agreed, pulling out my phone to show them the designs for the community center. "Now, who's ready to help others get real too?" Sometimes the sweetest victory isn't in proving others wrong. It's in helping them become right.
The moment I stepped through my childhood home's front door, I knew something was wrong. The familiar scent of Mom's arroz con pollo filled the air, but the warmth I expected to feel never came. Instead, there was a hollow emptiness that made my stomach twist. My name is Tatum, and after spending a year building my career abroad, I thought coming home would feel like slipping into a favorite sweater. I was wrong. "Mama!" I called out, wheeling my suitcase across the worn hardwood floors. The sound echoed through the house, followed by the clatter of pots from the kitchen. "Tatum, me here." Mom emerged, wiping her hands on her apron. Her embrace was tight, but something felt off in the way she pulled back too quickly. "We weren't expecting you until tomorrow." "I caught an earlier flight," I said, scanning the living room. Everything looked the same, except, "Where's Abuela's portrait?" Mom's smile faltered. "We had to make some changes while you were gone. Carmen's wedding planning took over the house." I walked to the empty wall space, my fingers tracing the faded rectangle where the portrait had hung for decades. "And Abuela's ring? I'd like to wear it now that I'm home." The silence that followed was deafening. "Mama!" I turned to face her, my heart racing. "Where's the ring?" She wouldn't meet my eyes. "We needed it for Carmen's wedding. The venue she wanted was expensive and you sold it?" The words came out as a whisper, but they might as well have been a scream. "That ring was meant for me. Abuela promised." "You've been gone too long, Tatum." Mom cut me off, her voice hardening. "Carmen needed it more. She's building a life here, while you've been off chasing dreams in Europe." The front door opened and Carmen breezed in, her perfectly manicured hands clutching wedding magazines. "Tatum, oh my God, you're early." She moved to hug me, but I stepped back. "You sold Abuela's ring?" Carmen's smile dimmed. "Oh, that." She glanced at Mom, then back to me. "It was just sitting in a box, and the wedding venue? Just sitting in a box?" My voice cracked. "That ring was the last thing Abuela gave me before she died. She made you promise, both of you, that it would be mine when I turned 30. "Which was 3 months ago," Mom interjected, "when you were too busy with your career to come home and celebrate with family. I was closing a major deal. You knew that." The memory of Abuela slipping the ring off her finger and pressing it into my palm flooded back. "Mi pequeña guerrera," she'd said. "This ring survived wars, crossed oceans. It's meant for someone strong, someone who fights for what matters." "It's done, Tatum," Mom said firmly. "The ring is gone, and Carmen's wedding is in 2 months. Either be happy for your sister or..." "Or what?" I challenged, but Mom just shook her head and returned to the kitchen. Carmen stepped closer, lowering her voice. "Look, I know you're upset, but this wedding means everything to me and Lucas. The venue was perfect, and we needed the money. You understand, right?" I stared at my sister, this person I'd grown up with, shared secrets with, protected from schoolyard bullies. Now she stood before me, perfectly coiffed and completely unrepentant about stealing my inheritance. "Congratulations on your wedding, Carmen," I said, my voice steady despite the rage building inside me. "I hope the venue was worth it." I grabbed my suitcase and headed upstairs to my old room, ignoring Carmen's calls behind me. Once inside, I locked the door and sank onto my bed, pulling out my phone to text Remy. "They sold it. They actually sold Abuela's ring." Remy's response was immediate. "What are you going to do?" I looked at the photo on my nightstand, Abuela and me on my college graduation day, her ring glinting in the sunlight as she held my hand. The memory of her words echoed in my mind. "Sometimes, mi amor, justice comes not from fighting, but from being clever enough to make others face their own choices." "I'm going to make them regret it," I typed back to Remy. "Every last penny they got from that ring." From downstairs, I could hear Carmen's excited chatter about table arrangements and flower choices. Mom's laughter floated up through the floorboards, and my jaw clenched. They thought they could dismiss me, dismiss Abuela's wishes, because I'd been gone too long. Well, I was home now, and they were about to learn that the little girl they remembered had grown into exactly the kind of woman Abuela had seen in me. Someone who fights for what matters, no matter the cost. I spent the next morning at the local coffee shop, laptop open, diving deep into my family's financial records. Being a financial analyst had its perks, namely, knowing exactly where to look for information that most people wouldn't think to hide. "More coffee?" the barista asked, hovering near my table. "Please," I nodded, not looking up from my screen. Something wasn't adding up. Carmen's wedding venue cost was astronomical, but the money from Abuela's ring wouldn't have covered even half of it. There had to be more to the story. My phone buzzed with a text from Carmen. Dress fitting at 2. You're coming, right? I typed back a quick, of course, while opening another browser tab. That's when I saw it. A mortgage approval from 3 weeks ago. My fingers flew across the keyboard, pulling up property records. Holy shit, I whispered. They hadn't just sold Abuela's ring for the venue. They'd used it as part of a down payment on a house. Carmen and Lucas's dream home. My phone buzzed again. Remy this time. Found anything? Meet me for lunch? Need your legal expertise. An hour later, Remy slid into the booth across from me at our favorite diner. Spill, she said, ordering a coffee without looking at the menu. I pushed my laptop toward her. They bought a house, used Abuela's ring money as part of the down payment. Remy's eyes widened as she scrolled through the documents. This is a gorgeous property, but wait. She squinted at the screen. There's something odd about this mortgage structure. Exactly, I said, leaning forward. They barely qualified. One missed payment, and the whole thing could collapse. Tatum, Remy warned. Whatever you're thinking. I know the real estate agent, I cut in. Remember Jake from high school? He handled the sale. Remy sat back, crossing her arms. And he owes me a favor. Remember that time I helped his sister with her visa application? Tatum. The waitress arrived with our food, interrupting whatever protest Remy was about to make. I waited until she left before continuing. I'm not doing anything illegal, I assured her, just making some inquiries as a potential buyer. Of what? Any properties Jake has listed, including ones that might come available soon? Remy took a bite of her sandwich, chewing thoughtfully. You're going to try to buy their house if they default, aren't you? I shrugged, picking at my fries. I'm just keeping my options open. You need to be careful, Remy said, lowering her voice. This isn't just about the ring anymore. You're right, I agreed, checking the time. It's about respect, family, keeping promises. I stood up, grabbing my purse. Speaking of which, I have a dress fitting to attend. The bridal shop was exactly as pretentious as I expected. Carmen stood on a pedestal surrounded by mirrors, while Mom dabbed at her eyes with a tissue. You look beautiful, mi amor, Mom gushed. I forced a smile watching Carmen twirl in her designer gown. The dress is perfect, I said, and it was. Simple, elegant, everything Carmen wasn't. I knew you'd love it, Carmen beamed. And wait until you see the house, Tatum. It's absolutely perfect. Lucas and I close next week. Can't wait, I replied, my phone buzzing in my pocket. A text from Jake. Free for coffee tomorrow? Need to catch up. Oh, Carmen clapped her hands. You should come to dinner tonight. Lucas's parents are coming over, and Dad's making his famous paella. Wouldn't miss it, I said, typing back to Jake. Tomorrow at 10, the usual place. That evening, I watched my family gather around the dinner table, laughing and planning Carmen's perfect day. Lucas's parents were lovely people, completely unaware of the undercurrents of tension. To Carmen and Lucas, Dad raised his glass. And their new beginning. Everyone clinked glasses. I took a sip of wine, studying Carmen's perfectly manicured hands, wondering if she ever thought about the ring that should have been on mine. Tatum's been so quiet, Carmen said suddenly. Tell us about Europe. Did you meet anyone special? I smiled, setting down my glass. Actually, I did meet someone interesting recently. I paused, watching their eager faces. A real estate agent. Mom's fork clattered against her plate. You're looking to buy? Just keeping my options open, I said, echoing my words to Remy. You never know when the perfect opportunity might come along. The conversation moved on, but I caught Mom watching me with narrowed eyes. She'd always said I had Abuela's smile, the one that didn't quite reach the eyes when we were planning something. Tomorrow, I'd meet with Jake. And then, well, as Abuela used to say, patience is the companion of wisdom. I had plenty of both. Jake hadn't changed much since high school, still had that easy smile and nervous habit of tapping his fingers on the table. We sat in a quiet corner of the coffee shop, away from the morning rush. "So," he said, sliding a folder across the table, "I pulled the records you asked about." I opened the folder, scanning the documents inside. "Tell me what I'm looking at." "Your sister and Lucas barely qualified for the mortgage." Jake lowered his voice. "They're stretching themselves thin. The down payment barely made the minimum requirement, even with the money from the ring sale." "How much was the ring worth?" The question had been burning in my mind. Jake hesitated. "Market value? Around 15,000. But they sold it to a private collector who paid 25. My coffee turned bitter in my mouth. $25,000. That's what they thought Abuela's legacy was worth. "Here's the interesting part," Jake continued, pointing to a clause in the contract. The seller included a right of first refusal clause. If they default within the first year, the property goes back on the market with strict conditions. "What kind of conditions?" "The kind that would make it difficult for most buyers to qualify." Jake gave me a meaningful look. "Unless they happen to have liquid assets and an excellent credit score." My phone buzzed. "Remy, how's the meeting going? Don't do anything stupid." "Jake," I leaned forward, "what exactly do you owe my sister and Lucas?" "Nothing." He shrugged. "They're just clients. But you," he smiled, "you helped my sister stay in the country. I haven't forgotten that." I nodded slowly. "So if another buyer came along, one with better qualifications?" Jake raised an eyebrow. "I'd have to present any legitimate offers to the seller. It's my legal obligation." I gathered the documents, sliding them into my bag. "Thanks, Jake. I appreciate the information." "Tatum," he called as I stood up, "whatever you're planning, be careful. Real estate can get messy." "Don't worry," I smiled. "I learned from the best. Our high school debate team captain, remember?" An hour later, I sat in Remy's law office, spreading the documents across her desk. "This is insane," she said, reading through the mortgage terms. "They're one missed payment away from disaster." "Exactly." I pulled out my laptop. "And look at this, Carmen's wedding budget spreadsheet. She accidentally shared it with my old email." Remy whistled at the numbers. "These are some expensive taste. How are they affording all this?" "They're not," I said grimly. "They're counting on wedding gifts to cover the gaps. But with the house payment, property taxes, and the wedding debt, it's a house of cards," Remy finished. "But Tatum, if you're thinking what I think you're thinking—" "I have the money," I cut in. "That deal I closed in Europe, the bonus was substantial." "This isn't about money," Remy pushed back from her desk. "This is about family. Are you ready for what this will do to them? To you?" My phone lit up with a text from Carmen. "Cake tasting tomorrow. Don't be late like you were for the dress fitting." They weren't ready for what selling Abuela's ring would do to me, I replied, showing Remy the text. "Besides, I'm not doing anything wrong, just being strategic." Remy sighed, pulling out a legal pad. "Okay, if we're doing this, we're doing it right. First, you'll need a shell company to make the purchase. Keep your name off everything until the last possible moment." We spent the next hour planning, Remy's legal expertise helping me navigate the complexities of real estate law. By the time I left her office, the framework of my plan was solid. At the cake tasting the next day, I watched Carmen and Lucas sample flavors, their faces glowing with excitement. "Try this one." Carmen pushed a plate toward me. "It's champagne with raspberry filling." I took a bite, thinking about the documents in my bag. "It's perfect," I said, "just like everything else in your wedding." "I know," Carmen beamed. And wait until you see what we're doing with the house. Lucas's parents are helping us furnish it as a wedding gift. That's so generous, I smiled, remembering the clause in their mortgage about furnishing loans. When do you move in? Right after the honeymoon, Carmen said dreamily. It's like a fairy tale, isn't it? Everything falling into place perfectly. I thought about Abuela's ring, probably sitting in some collector's vault, about the portrait that had disappeared from our wall, about promises broken and memories sold. Yes, I said, taking another bite of cake. Just like a fairy tale. But fairy tales, as Abuela used to remind me, weren't always sweet. Sometimes they were warnings wrapped in sugar coating, teaching lessons about greed, betrayal, and consequences. And I was about to teach my family a lesson they'd never forget. The real estate office buzzed with activity as I signed the final paperwork for my shell company. Jake sat across from me, sliding document after document across his desk. Remember, he said quietly, timing is everything. One wrong move and this all falls apart. I know. I initialed another page. Has Carmen made her payment this month? Jake checked his computer. Barely, they had to pull from their wedding fund. He lowered his voice further. The caterer called me yesterday, asking if I knew why their last check bounced. My phone lit up with a text from Mom. Family dinner tonight. No excuses. Perfect timing, I muttered, signing the last document. How long until everything's in place? 2 weeks, Max. Jake gathered the papers. Just in time for the wedding. That evening, I walked into my parents' house to find Carmen in tears at the kitchen table. What happened? I asked, though I already knew. The florist, Carmen sobbed. They're demanding full payment up front now. Something about their policy changing. Mom shot me a suspicious look as she patted Carmen's back. It's okay, mi amor. We'll figure something out. I could help, I offered innocently. I have some savings. No, Dad interrupted, entering the kitchen. We don't need your money, Tatum. We'll handle this as a family. Like you handled Abuela's ring? The words slipped out before I could stop them. The kitchen fell silent. Carmen's sobs quieted to hiccups. That's enough, Mom snapped. We're not discussing this again. Fine. I sat down watching Dad serve the enchiladas. How's the house, Carmen? Everything ready for the move? Carmen brightened slightly. Almost. The painters finish next week and then... If we can afford it, Lucas cut in, joining us at the table. He looked tired, worry lines creasing his forehead. The rates on our credit cards just went up. I took a bite of enchilada, hiding my smile. Amazing what a few calls to credit card companies about suspicious activity could do. You two are just having pre-wedding jitters, Mom insisted. Everything will work out. My phone buzzed. Remy. Papers are filed. You're officially a ghost buyer. Speaking of work, I said, putting my phone away, I might be buying some property in the area. Any advice, Lucas? You're in real estate development, right? Lucas shifted uncomfortably. Actually, I'm between projects right now. The market's complicated. That's not what I heard, I pressed. Jake mentioned some interesting opportunities coming up. Carmen's fork clattered against her plate. You've been talking to Jake? Just catching up, I shrugged. We were friends in high school, remember? The tension around the table was delicious. Mom's eyes narrowed. Dad studied his plate, and Carmen exchanged worried glances with Lucas. More enchiladas? Dad offered weakly. Later that night, Remy called as I was driving home. The florist called, she said. They're willing to be flexible on the payment schedule. How flexible? They'll take half now, half after the wedding. But Tatum? Remy paused. I saw the guest list. Over 200 people? The numbers don't add up. They never did, I replied, pulling into my driveway. That's the point. The next morning, I met Jake at Carmen and Lucas's future house. The painters were taking a break. leaving us alone in the empty living room. "The seller's interested in your offer," Jake said, his voice echoing off the bare walls. "If anything happens with the current buyers—" I walked to the window, looking out at the perfectly manicured lawn. "And the timing?" "Their next payment is due 3 days before the wedding." Jake checked his phone. "If they miss it, everything's ready to go." I turned, taking in the space where Carmen had planned to put her wedding photos, the corner where she'd picked out a Christmas tree spot. "Having second thoughts?" Jake asked. "No." I pulled out my phone, showing him a photo of Abuela's ring. They made their choice. Now they'll live with it. That afternoon, Carmen called me in a panic. "The wedding planner quit," she cried. "Something about professional integrity and bounced checks. Tatum, what am I going to do?" "Breathe," I said calmly. "I'll help you find another one." "Really? But you've been so distant lately." "You're my sister," I replied, thinking of the documents sitting in my safe. "Family helps family, right?" As I hung up, another text from Remy appeared. "Last chance to back out." I looked at the photo of Abuela on my desk, her ring glinting in the sunlight. "Sometimes," she used to say, "the most important lessons cost everything." "No backing out," I texted back. "The house of cards is about to fall." 1 week before the wedding, I stood in Carmen and Lucas's future kitchen, watching them argue in hushed tones by the granite countertop they couldn't afford. "We can't keep pulling from the wedding fund," Lucas hissed. "The mortgage payment is due in 4 days." "My parents will help," Carmen insisted, but her voice wavered. "They always do." "They can't," I interrupted, making them both jump. "Dad's credit cards are maxed out. I saw the statements on his desk yesterday." Carmen's face crumpled. "Why are you here, Tatum? To gloat?" "I'm here to help with the wedding plans, like you asked." I set my laptop on the counter. "Unless you don't want my help anymore?" Lucas ran his hands through his hair. "I need to make some calls." He walked out, phone already pressed to his ear. Carmen slumped against the counter. "Everything's falling apart," she whispered. "The caterer's threatening to cancel. The venue wants the final payment tomorrow. And now the house. You could postpone the wedding," I suggested, watching her carefully. "No." Carmen straightened up. "Everything has to be perfect. We've invited everyone, booked everything. I can't be the failure of the family." "Like me?" The words hung in the air between us. Carmen's eyes filled with tears. "That's not what I meant. You're successful. You're gone too long." I quoted Mom's words back at her. "Too focused on my career." "Tatum, about the ring." My phone buzzed. "Jake, payment deadline tomorrow. They haven't made any arrangements." "I have to go." I cut Carmen off, gathering my things. "Wedding emergency to handle." As I reached the door, Carmen called out, "Wait, I never thanked you for helping with everything these past weeks." I turned back, seeing my little sister, really seeing her, for the first time since I'd returned. She looked small, scared, nothing like the confident bride who dismissed my feelings about Abuela's ring. "That's what family does," I said, the words tasting like ash in my mouth. At home, I found Remy waiting on my doorstep. "We need to talk," she said, following me inside. "I just got off the phone with the venue. They're giving Carmen and Lucas until tomorrow noon to pay, or they're canceling." "I know." I poured us both a glass of wine. "The mortgage payment is due the same day." "Tatum." Remy set her glass down untouched. "I saw them today at the park near my office. They looked happy, in love, despite everything." "Love doesn't pay bills," I said sharply, "or replace family heirlooms." "No, but—" A knock at the door interrupted us. I opened it to find Lucas standing there, looking desperate. "I need your help," he said without preamble. "I know we're not close, but Carmen loves you, and I love her. Come in." I stepped aside, watching him pace my living room. I messed up, he admitted. The development project I was working on fell through months ago. I've been pretending everything's fine, taking consulting jobs to make ends meet. But now reality's catching up, I finished. Please, he looked at me, eyes red. I'll pay you back every cent. I just need help with the mortgage payment. Just this once. Remy shot me a warning look. Tatum. I walked to my desk, pulled out the folder of documents I'd been collecting. How much do you know about your mortgage terms, Lucas? What? The right of first refusal clause, the accelerated default provisions? I spread the papers on my coffee table. Did you read any of it? His face paled. How did you get these? The same way I got these. I added the credit card statements, the bounced check notices, the catering contract with its missed payments. You've been watching us, he whispered, planning something. Like you planned to sell my grandmother's ring? I kept my voice steady. Like you planned this perfect life you can't afford? Lucas staggered back. Carmen was right. You've changed. No, I corrected him. I just stopped letting people take what's mine. He left without another word, the door closing softly behind him. That was cruel, Remy said into the silence. That was honest. I gathered the documents back into their folder. Something my family hasn't been in a long time. My phone lit up with a text from Carmen. Whatever you're planning, please don't. Not before the wedding. I'm begging you. I showed the message to Remy, who shook her head. It's not too late to stop this. But as I looked at the empty space on my finger where Abuela's ring should have been, I knew it had been too late the moment they sold it. The payment deadline is tomorrow, I said, finishing my wine. Let's see if love really conquers all. The wedding day arrived with perfect weather and imperfect timing. I stood in front of the church mirror, adjusting my bridesmaid's dress while my phone buzzed with notifications. Jake, payment missed, default proceedings initiated. Remy, venue payment cleared last minute, wedding's on. Jake, offer accepted by seller, papers ready. You look beautiful, Mom said, appearing behind me in the mirror. Almost as beautiful as Carmen. Almost, I echoed, watching her face. Did you help them with the venue payment? Mom's smile tightened. We sold some things. More family heirlooms? Enough, Tatum. She gripped my shoulders. Today is your sister's day. Don't ruin it. The church filled quickly with guests in designer outfits, all here to witness Carmen's perfect day. I stood at my assigned spot, clutching my bouquet, watching Lucas fidget at the altar. The wedding march began, and Carmen appeared on Dad's arm. She was radiant in her white dress, smiling through her veil. For a moment, I almost wavered. Then I saw it, on her finger, a new ring, diamond-encrusted, obviously expensive. My stomach churned. Dearly beloved, the priest began, but my phone vibrated silently in my hidden dress pocket. Jake again. Everything's done. You own the house. The ceremony passed in a blur of vows and promises. Promises, I thought bitterly, like the one they made to Abuela about her ring. At the reception, Carmen danced with Lucas, their faces glowing with joy. I sat at my assigned table, watching the champagne flow, knowing each bottle represented money they didn't have. You okay? Remy asked, sliding into the seat beside me. Perfect. I pulled an envelope from my clutch. The timing couldn't be better. Tatum, please. Ladies and gentlemen, the DJ's voice boomed. It's time for the maid of honor's speech. I stood, envelope in hand, and made my way to the microphone. The room fell silent. My sister Carmen, I began, has always known exactly what she wanted. The perfect wedding, the perfect house, the perfect life. I paused, meeting her eyes across the room, and she's always known how to get it. Carmen's smile faltered slightly. When we were kids, I continued, Carmen wanted my favorite doll. She cried until our parents made me give it to her. When we were teenagers, she wanted my prom date. She got him too. Uncomfortable murmurs rippled through the crowd. But this year, she wanted something that wasn't hers to take. I pulled out my phone, showing the picture of Abuela's ring. This ring survived wars, crossed oceans, and was promised to me. But Carmen wanted a perfect wedding more than she wanted to keep that promise. Tatum, Mom warned from her table, but I kept going. So today, on this perfect day, I wanted to give my sister and her new husband a gift. I held up the envelope. Something to match their perfect taste. Lucas stood, his face pale. Tatum, don't. It's the deed to your dream house, I announced, watching their faces. Or rather, my dream house now. The payment you missed yesterday, the one you needed for your perfect wedding. It triggered the default clause, and I was there, ready to buy. The room erupted in gasps and whispers. Carmen's perfect makeup began to run with tears. You can't, she whispered into the microphone I still held. That's our home. Was your home? I corrected, just like this was my ring. I set the envelope on their table. Consider it karma or consider it justice. Either way, you have 30 days to vacate. Congratulations on your perfect wedding. I turned to leave, but Carmen grabbed my arm. How could you? She sobbed. We're family. Family? I pulled away. Family keeps promises. Family respects memories. Family doesn't sell what isn't theirs to sell. Enough! Dad's voice boomed across the room. Both of you, outside, now. In the garden behind the venue, surrounded by the roses Carmen had insisted on, our family drama reached its breaking point. Fix this, Mom demanded. Give them back the house. Like you gave back my ring? I challenged. Carmen sank onto a bench, her white dress pooling around her. We needed the money, she whispered. We were desperate. And now you're homeless, I replied. Funny how karma works. Por favor, Dad pleaded. We can work this out. I looked at my family, Mom's angry tears, Dad's disappointment, Carmen's ruined makeup, Lucas's defeated stance, and felt nothing but a cold satisfaction. The house is mine, I said firmly, just like the ring was supposed to be mine. You all made your choices. Now live with them. I walked away, leaving them in the garden, the sound of Carmen's sobs following me into the night. In my purse, the house keys jingled with every step, a melody of revenge finally served. The morning after the wedding, I sat in my new kitchen, their kitchen, surrounded by half-unpacked boxes and the echo of what I'd done. My phone hadn't stopped buzzing since last night. Mom, how could you do this to your sister? Dad, we need to talk. Remy, call me when you're ready. Carmen, please, we can fix this. A knock at the door interrupted my thoughts. I opened it to find Lucas standing there, still in his wedding suit, looking like he hadn't slept. Can I come in? His voice was hoarse. I stepped aside, watching him take in the boxes I'd already moved in. Efficient? He commented dryly. I learned from the best, I replied. How's Carmen? Destroyed. He ran a hand through his disheveled hair. She's at your parents' house, crying about how she's lost everything. Her sister, her home, her perfect life. And the ring? Lucas met my eyes. That's why I'm here. I found something you should see. He pulled out his phone, showing me an email. The collector who bought your grandmother's ring, he's willing to sell it back. My heart skipped. What's the catch? Double the price, Lucas said. $50,000. I laughed bitterly. And you're telling me this because? Because I know where the ring really is. He pulled an envelope from his jacket. Carmen never sold it. She pawned it. The world tilted sideways. What? She was going to get it back, Lucas continued. After the wedding, when things settled down. The collector's story was to make it seem final, so you wouldn't look for it. My hands shook as I opened the envelope. Inside was a pawn ticket, dated 3 months ago. Why are you showing me this? Because I love Carmen, Lucas said simply. But what she did was wrong, and now we're both paying for it. The doorbell rang again. This time it was Carmen, mascara streaked down her face, still in her wedding dress. You weren't supposed to tell her, she screamed at Lucas, pushing past me into the house. That was our only leverage. Leverage? I grabbed her arm. You were going to blackmail me with my own grandmother's ring? I was desperate. Carmen wrenched away. The house, the wedding, everything was falling apart. I needed you to give it back. Give it back? I advanced on her. Like you gave back my ring? Oh, wait, you didn't sell it. You pawned it, like some cheap piece of costume jewelry. Girls, Mom's voice cut through our argument. She stood in the doorway, Dad behind her. Enough. No, I said firmly. Not enough. Carmen, where's the pawn ticket? I'm not giving it to you. She clutched her purse tighter. Not unless you sign the house back over. Carmen, Lucas warned, but she ignored him. You want your precious ring, she continued. Then give us back our home. I looked at my sister, really looked at her. The desperate gleam in her eyes, the way her perfect wedding dress was now wrinkled and stained, the new ring on her finger that probably cost as much as the down payment they couldn't afford. You haven't changed since we were kids, I said quietly, still thinking you can cry your way into getting whatever you want. And you're still the same bitter, jealous sister, Carmen spat, always thinking everyone owes you something. Stop it, both of you. Dad stepped between us. This isn't what your grandmother would have wanted. No. I turned to him. Abuela taught me to fight for what matters, to stand up for myself. Where were you when Carmen took what was mine? When Mom pawned my inheritance? We were trying to help your sister, Mom pleaded. By hurting me? I pulled out my phone, dialing Jake's number. Hello? Yes, I need you to start the eviction proceedings immediately. Tatum, no! Carmen lunged for my phone, but Lucas held her back. 30 days, I said into the phone, watching my sister collapse into Lucas's arms. Not a day more. You'll regret this, Mom said, her voice cold. Family is forever, Tatum. Family? I gestured around the empty house. Family died the day you chose her perfect wedding over Abuela's wishes. They left one by one. First Mom and Dad, then Lucas, practically carrying a hysterical Carmen. The pawn ticket was still in her purse, along with whatever leverage she thought she had over me. My phone buzzed one more time. Remy. Was it worth it? I looked around at my new house, bought with betrayal and paid for with pain. The walls seemed to echo with Carmen's sobs, with Mom's disappointment, with Dad's silence. No going back now, I texted Remy. But as I stood in my victory, I felt nothing but hollow. The pawn shop bell jingled as I pushed open the door. Behind the counter, an elderly man looked up from his newspaper. Can I help you? I placed the pawn ticket on the counter. Carmen had finally surrendered it last night, slipping it under my door with a note. I hope it was worth it. The man examined the ticket, then disappeared into the back. My heart pounded as I waited, remembering Abuela's words the day she gave me the ring. Power isn't in the gold, mi amor. It's in what we choose to do with it. He returned with a familiar velvet box. Inside, Abuela's ring caught the fluorescent light, its worn gold and tiny diamonds exactly as I remembered. That'll be $3,000 plus interest, he said. I handed over my credit card, my hands shaking slightly. As I slipped the ring onto my finger, my phone buzzed. Remy. Did you get it? Me. Yes, meeting you in 20. I found Remy at the courthouse, clutching a manila envelope. "Are you sure about this?" she asked, handing me the papers. "No," I admitted, "but Abuela would be." We drove to my parents' house in silence. Carmen's car was in the driveway, along with a moving truck. They were packing up her things, preparing for the eviction. Mom opened the door, her face hardening when she saw me. "Come to gloat?" "No." I held up the envelope. "I came to fix things." In the living room, Carmen sat surrounded by wedding gifts they'd have to return. Lucas stood by the window, while Dad occupied his usual armchair. "What's this?" Carmen asked as I placed the envelope on the coffee table. "Open it." With trembling fingers, she pulled out the documents. Her eyes widened as she read. "A lease agreement?" "1 year," I explained. "Market rate rent. After that, if you make every payment on time, you'll have the option to buy back the house." "Why?" Lucas stepped forward. "After everything," I held up my hand, Abuela's ring glinting. "Because this ring isn't about power or punishment. It's about family." Carmen stared at the ring. "How did you—" "The pawn ticket you gave me." I sat beside her. "Carmen, what we did to each other. It has to stop." "But the house is yours now," she whispered. "You won." "Nobody won." I took her hand. "Look at us. Look at what we've become." Mom moved closer, her eyes on the ring. "Your abuela would be so disappointed in all of us." "No," I corrected her. "She'd be waiting for us to make it right." Dad cleared his throat. "The lease payments? They're reasonable?" "More than reasonable," Lucas confirmed, reviewing the papers. "This is generous, Tatum." "With conditions," I added. "First, no more secrets, no more manipulation. And Carmen," I turned to my sister, "you need help with the spending, real help." Carmen nodded, tears spilling down her cheeks. "I know. I've already called a financial advisor." "And the wedding gifts?" I asked. "Being returned," Lucas said firmly. "All of them. We're starting fresh." Mom touched the ring on my finger. "It looks right," she said softly. "It belongs there." "Yes," I agreed. "And this house belongs to all of us. The memories we'll make here, the family we'll rebuild, that's worth more than revenge." Carmen hugged me suddenly, her tears soaking my shoulder. "I'm so sorry," she whispered, "for everything." "Me too," I whispered back. Dad stood, his eyes misty. "Your abuela used to say that family is like a garden. Sometimes you have to prune hard to grow stronger." "But you don't pull out the roots," I finished, remembering abuela's words. Later that evening, as Carmen and Lucas signed the lease agreement, Mom brought out an old photo album. "Look," she said, opening to a page with abuela's picture. "She's wearing the ring here at your 5th birthday party, Tatum." In the photo, abuela sat between Carmen and me, one arm around each of us, the ring catching the light just like it did now. "She knew, didn't she?" Carmen asked quietly, "that we'd need something to bring us back together someday?" "She knew we'd find our way back," I replied, touching the ring. "If we were brave enough to choose family over pride." As I drove home that night, I passed the house, their house now, at least for the next year. The moving truck was gone, and lights glowed warmly in the windows. My phone buzzed one last time. "Carmen, thank you for giving us a second chance. We won't waste it." I smiled, abuela's ring comfortable on my finger where it belonged. Sometimes the greatest power isn't in winning the fight, but in knowing when to end it. And sometimes, just sometimes, karma works in mysterious ways, not to punish, but to heal.
The screen of my phone glowed mockingly in the darkness of my bedroom, displaying a balance I couldn't comprehend. $12.47. Just yesterday, there had been over $40,000 in my account. Every penny I'd saved since I was 16. My hands trembled as I refreshed the app again and again, hoping it was just a glitch. My name is Caroline, and I thought I knew what betrayal felt like. I was wrong. A notification popped up, a text from my mother. Honey, we borrowed some money for Claire's wedding. Don't worry, we'll pay you back once everything settles down. This is for the family's joy. The room started spinning. I grabbed my keys and drove to my parents' house, still wearing my pajamas. The lights were on despite it being 11 p.m. Through the window, I could see Mom and Claire hunched over bridal magazines at the kitchen table, giggling like schoolgirls. I burst through the door without knocking. What did you do? Mom looked up, her smile faltering slightly. Caroline, what are you doing here so late? My money, I said, my voice cracking. How did you even access my account? Claire's eyes widened. What's going on? Your sister's being dramatic, Mom said, waving her hand dismissively. We needed the money for your wedding venue deposit. The Riverside Garden books up years in advance, and they had a last-minute cancellation. $40,000? I couldn't keep the tremor from my voice. That was everything I had. Oh, please, Mom rolled her eyes. You're always so selfish. This is your sister's special day. Besides, you're not even dating anyone. What were you saving for? My future. My independence. Maybe my own wedding someday? The words came out in a rush. You had no right? Dad appeared in the doorway, still in his work clothes. What's all the shouting about? They stole my money, I said, turning to him. Dad, they cleaned out my account. Borrowed, Mom corrected. And we're co-signers on that account, sweetheart. We've always had access. The account I opened when I was 16, I said slowly. The one you were supposed to remove yourselves from when I turned 18. Remember that conversation? Dad at least had the decency to look uncomfortable. Mara, we should have discussed this with Caroline first. There wasn't time. Mom stood up, spreading her arms. The venue needed an answer today. Do you know how many people would kill for a June wedding at Riverside Garden? This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for Claire. Claire finally spoke up. I didn't know it was Caroline's money. Of course you didn't, I spat. You never have to know where anything comes from. Everything just magically appears for precious Claire. That's enough. Mom slammed her hand on the table. I won't have you ruining this special time with your jealousy. The money will be repaid after the wedding. After the wedding? I laughed bitterly. With what? The money you don't have? Is that why you stole from me in the first place? We did not steal, Mom began, but I cut her off. I worked 3 jobs through college. I saved every scholarship dollar. I lived on ramen while Claire got a new car for her 20th birthday. And now you take everything I've worked for without even asking? Caroline, Dad stepped forward, reaching for my arm. Let's talk about this rationally. I jerked away from him. Don't touch me. You're just as bad as she is. You always stand there and let her do whatever she wants. I'm sorry, Claire whispered, tears welling in her eyes. I didn't want it to be like this. No, I said, backing toward the door. You never want it to be like this. You just want everything handed to you and someone else to deal with the consequences. Mom followed me. Where are you going? Don't be ridiculous. Come back inside and we'll discuss this like adults. I turned to face her one last time. Adults ask before taking something that doesn't belong to them. Adults respect boundaries. You're not adults. You're thieves. As I drove home, my phone buzzed repeatedly with messages from all 3 of them. I ignored them all. In my apartment, I sat in the dark, staring at the wedding invitation that had arrived last week. The elaborate script announced Claire and Trenton's perfect day at the prestigious Riverside Garden. My perfect sister, my perfect parents, their perfect lies. I picked up my phone and dialed. Elise, I need your help with something. It's almost midnight, my best friend answered groggily. What's wrong? Everything, I said, my voice steady for the first time that night. And I'm going to make them pay for it. Elise sat across from me at our usual coffee shop booth the next morning, her eyes wide as I showed her my empty bank account. They can't do this. It's illegal, right? Apparently they can, I said, stirring my untouched coffee. I called the bank. Since they're still co-signers, technically they had authorization. But you're 26. Why were they still? Because I trusted them. The words tasted bitter. I never thought they'd... My phone buzzed again. Claire's face lighting up the screen for the 10th time that morning. I declined the call. You have to answer eventually, Elise said gently. Watch me not. I switched my phone to silent. You know what the worst part is? Mom's already posting about the perfect venue on social media. Look. I showed Elise my mother's Facebook post. Dreams do come true. So blessed to announce Claire and Trenton's wedding will be at the prestigious Riverside Garden. Perfect day. Blessed mother. June wedding. The comments are making me sick, I said. You must be so proud. Claire deserves nothing but the best, if they only knew. The bell above the cafe door chimed and I froze. Dad walked in, scanning the room until he spotted me. Caroline, he said, approaching our table, you're not answering your phone. Funny how that works. Kind of like how you didn't answer when I tried calling about accessing my account yesterday. He shifted uncomfortably. I was in meetings all day. Right, important meetings. Always too important to stop Mom when she goes too far. I'll leave you two to talk. Elise started to slide out of the booth, but I grabbed her arm. Stay, please. Dad pulled up a chair. Your mother and I discussed it, and we understand you're upset. Upset? I laughed. Dad, you stole my life savings. Borrowed, he corrected automatically, then winced when I slammed my cup down. Stop saying that. You can't borrow without asking. You can't borrow what you can't repay. Where's this money supposedly coming from? He loosened his tie. We have some investments we can liquidate after the wedding. Investments? I leaned forward. What investments? Last month you were complaining about second mortgaging the house for Claire's grad school. We'll figure it out, he said weakly. Caroline, please. Your sister is devastated. She's been crying all morning. Good. Don't be like that. She's your sister. And I'm your daughter. My voice cracked. Several cafe patrons turned to stare. Did either of you think about that? Did you think about what this money meant to me? Of course we did, but sometimes families make sacrifices. No, I cut him off. Claire doesn't sacrifice. Mom doesn't sacrifice. You don't sacrifice. I'm the only one who ever has to give anything up. Dad reached across the table for my hand. I pulled back. Remember when I got into Stanford? I asked quietly. Full academic scholarship, but I still needed money for housing and books. Mom said we couldn't afford it. I went to state instead. 2 months later, Claire got her BMW. That was different. How? How was it different? He had no answer. Get out, I said. Caroline. Get out. He stood slowly, looking older than I'd ever seen him. We love you, both of you, equally. That's the biggest lie you've ever told. I turned to stare out the window, refusing to watch him leave. After the bell chimed again, Elise squeezed my hand. Are you okay? No. I pulled out the wedding invitation, running my finger over the embossed letters. But I will be. What are you thinking? I'm thinking about karma. I met her eyes, and how sometimes it needs a little help. My phone buzzed with a text from Claire. Please talk to me. I didn't know it was your money. I'll find another venue. No, you won't, I muttered, typing back. Keep the venue. You deserve your perfect day. I'll be there. Don't worry. Elise raised an eyebrow. That's surprisingly forgiving of you. I showed her my screen, where I'd pulled up Boston's Instagram profile. He was a social media manager I knew through mutual friends, and more importantly, he had over 100,000 followers. They want a perfect wedding? I smiled for the first time in 24 hours. I'll make sure everyone remembers it. Caroline, Elise warned, whatever you're planning. They took everything I had, I said, hitting the message button on Boston's profile. Now I'm going to take the only thing they care about, their precious reputation. The cafe bell chimed again. This time it was my mother, clutching her designer purse like a shield. I stood up, gathering my things. Not today, Mom. I've got a wedding to prepare for. You want me to do what? Boston leaned back in his chair at the trendy downtown bar, eyebrows raised. Make it go viral, I repeated, sliding my phone across the table. The bank statement was still open on the screen. I want everyone to know exactly how my sister's dream wedding is being funded. He whistled low. That's cold, Caroline, even for you. Colder than stealing someone's entire savings? Fair point. He took a sip of his beer. But have you thought this through? Once something's online, it's there forever. Good. I pulled out my notebook, flipping to a fresh page. I want it to be permanent. Hey guys! A familiar voice cut through the bar's ambient noise. My stomach dropped as Trenton, Claire's fiancé, approached our table. Trent, Boston stood to give him a quick hug. Didn't expect to see you here. Just grabbing drinks with some work friends. His eyes landed on me. Caroline, perfect timing. Claire's been trying to reach you. I've been busy, I said flatly. Listen. He pulled up a chair uninvited. I heard about what happened with the money. I had no idea. Save it, I cut him off. You're just as bad as she is. Living in your fantasy world where everything works out perfectly because someone else pays the price. His face reddened. That's not fair. I offered to help pay for the venue when I found out. With what? I laughed. Your entry-level salary? The same one you used to justify Claire paying for your dates all through college? Caroline, Boston warned. No. Let her finish, Trenton said, jaw tight. Clearly she's been holding on to this for a while. You're damn right I have. I leaned forward. You've been living off my sister's allowance for years, and now you're living off my stolen savings. You're a parasite, Trenton. He stood abruptly, chair scraping against the floor. I came here to make peace. Claire's devastated. Your parents are trying to make it right. Why can't you just what? Roll over? Accept it? Like I always do? Maybe if you weren't so bitter about everything? Get out, I said, my voice deadly quiet. Before I start telling everyone here exactly what kind of man you are. He left without another word. Boston waited until he was gone before speaking. Well, that was intense. He deserved it. Maybe. Boston picked up my phone again. But you might want to be more careful. Element of surprise and all that. He had a point. I took a deep breath, refocusing. So, will you help me? I don't know, Caroline, this is pretty nuclear. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Drop whatever you're planning. Some things should stay in the family. I showed it to Boston. See, they're already trying to silence me. He frowned. Who sent that? Probably one of Mom's country club friends. She's been telling everyone I'm having a mental episode. I rolled my eyes. Classic deflection. What exactly do you want to do? I pulled out the wedding invitation. June 15th, Riverside Garden. I'm going to stand up during the ceremony and tell everyone exactly how this wedding was funded. I want you to make sure it spreads beyond just the guests. That's specific. I've had time to think about it. I showed him my notes. I'll need multiple camera angles, live streaming capabilities, maybe even... Caroline? A soft voice interrupted. I looked up to see Elise, who was supposed to meet us later. You're early, I said. Yeah. She sat down, looking troubled. I just came from your parents' house. My stomach clenched. Why were you there? Claire called me. She's a mess, Caroline. She's talking about canceling the wedding. Good. Is it? Elise challenged. Will that get your money back? Will it make you feel better? Yes, I said, but my voice wavered. You're lying. She reached for my hand. I know you're hurt. You have every right to be. But this path you're on... Don't, I pulled away. Don't try to talk me out of this. I'm not. I'm asking you to think about what happens after. When the video goes viral, when the family's torn apart, when there's no going back, what then? My phone buzzed again. Another unknown number. Last warning. Back off. I showed it to them both. See? They're threatening me now. Still think I should back down? Boston and Elise exchanged looks. Actually, Boston said slowly, this might work in our favor. Keep those texts. Document everything. If we're going to do this, let's do it right. I smiled, feeling the first flutter of victory. So you'll help? He nodded. But we do this my way. Professional, calculated, no emotional outbursts. Deal. I raised my glass. To karma. To karma, he echoed, but Elise remained silent, watching me with worried eyes. I ignored her concern. There was no turning back now. Are you sure about this? Boston asked, adjusting the tiny camera hidden in what looked like a normal brooch. Once we start, there's no going back. We were sitting in his home office, surrounded by various pieces of recording equipment. 3 weeks had passed since the confrontation at the bar, and the wedding was now just 10 days away. I'm sure. I pinned the brooch to my jacket, checking its position in the mirror. How's the audio quality? Crystal clear. He played back a test recording. But Caroline, these threatening texts you've been getting, maybe we should report them. I shook my head. They're just trying to scare me. Besides, we need them for the story. My phone lit up with another message from Claire. Just picked up my dress. Wish you'd been there. Miss you. I ignored it, just like I'd ignored the dozens before it. The bridal shower invitation, the rehearsal dinner details, the desperate voicemails. Your sister's really trying, Boston observed, watching me delete the message. She's really trying to pretend everything's normal, I corrected, just like always. The doorbell rang. Boston checked his security camera feed. It's Elise. She burst in moments later, waving a stack of papers. You're not going to believe what I found. What is it? I asked as she spread the documents across Boston's desk. Bank statements, credit card bills, loan applications. She pointed to highlighted sections. Your parents are completely underwater. They've been living on credit for years, trying to maintain their lifestyle. I leaned in closer. Where did you get these? I have a friend who works at their bank. She owed me a favor. Elise looked uncomfortable. What they did to you? It wasn't just cruel. It was desperate. They're on the verge of bankruptcy. All the more reason to expose them, I said. They're frauds. Caroline, Elise's voice softened. They're drowning. Maybe if you talk to them? No, I gathered the papers. This is perfect. Now we can show everyone exactly who they are. Boston cleared his throat. I've been thinking, maybe we should have a backup plan. What if someone tries to stop you during the ceremony? That's why I need you both there, I said. Multiple angles, multiple devices streaming. If I get shut down, one of you keeps recording. I don't know, Elise hesitated. This feels wrong. Wrong? I spun to face her. You know what's wrong? This bill for Claire's wedding dress. I pointed to one of the statements. $10,000. That's 2 months of my savings right there. For one dress she'll wear once. I'm not defending them, Elise said. But... A sharp knock at the door cut her off. Boston checked the camera and paled. It's your dad. What? I grabbed the documents, shoving them into my bag. How did he know I was here? Probably followed me, Elise admitted. I saw his car earlier, but thought I lost him. The knocking grew louder. Caroline? I know you're in there. Please, we need to talk. Boston pointed to his back door. Go, I'll handle him. I slipped out just as Boston opened the front door. From around the corner, I heard my father's voice. Where is she? Mr. Graham, Boston said firmly. This is private property. She's my daughter, who clearly doesn't want to speak with you. I texted Elise. Meet me at our backup location. 20 minutes later, we regrouped at a small cafe across town. Boston joined us shortly after. Your dad's gone, he reported. But he left this. He handed me an envelope. Inside was a check for $5,000 and a note. It's a start. Please let us make this right. I ripped both in half. Caroline, Elise protested. It's not about the money anymore, I said. It's about the lies, the manipulation, everything they've hidden for years while pretending to be the perfect family. Speaking of hiding, Boston pulled out his laptop. I've got the live stream set up ready. Multiple platforms, impossible to shut down completely. The moment you start talking, it'll go live. I nodded, touching the brooch. Good. And the audio? Crystal clear, like I said, but... He hesitated. Are you absolutely sure you want to do this? It's not too late to back out. My phone buzzed with another anonymous text. Final chance. Walk away or face the consequences. I showed them the message. See? They're still trying to control me. Still trying to silence me. Well, not anymore. I stood up, gathering my things. The rehearsal dinner is in 3 days. I need you both there, testing the equipment, making sure everything works perfectly. And then? Elise asked quietly. And then, I smiled grimly, my sister gets exactly the wedding day she deserves. As I walked out, I heard Elise whisper to Boston, I'm scared for her. I'm scared for all of them, he replied. They should be, I thought. The perfect family was about to get a very public wake-up call. The morning of the wedding dawned bright and clear. Perfect weather for destroying my family's reputation. I stood in front of my mirror, adjusting the pale blue bridesmaid's dress Claire had chosen months ago. The brooch camera was hidden perfectly among the beading. My phone lit up with a text from Boston. Equipment check at 9. Don't be late. I grabbed my purse and headed for the door, only to find Elise waiting in the hallway. You shouldn't be alone today, she said simply. The drive to Riverside Garden was silent. The venue looked like something from a fairy tale, with its manicured lawns and cascading flower arrangements. A banner across the entrance read, Claire and Trenton's perfect day. Subtle, I muttered. Boston met us at the side entrance, laptop in hand. Testing, testing. Camera 1, say something. I hate everything about this place. Audio's perfect. He checked his screen. Camera 2? Elise touched her necklace, another hidden camera. Testing. All systems go. Boston looked up. Last chance to back out. Before I could respond, my mother's voice rang out across the garden. Caroline! There you are! She hurried over, perfect makeup already in place, designer dress rustling. Why aren't you at the bridal suite? Claire's been asking for you. I needed some air. Well, come on. She grabbed my arm. The photographer wants pictures of the sisters getting ready together. I caught Boston's eye. He nodded slightly. The cameras were rolling. The bridal suite was chaos. Makeup artists, hairdressers, and Claire in the middle of it all, looking like a princess in her expensive dress, my stolen savings wrapped in white silk and lace. Caroline! She jumped up, eyes watery. You came. I'm a bridesmaid, aren't I? She hugged me tight. I've missed you so much. I'm so sorry about everything. Are you? I pulled back. Or are you just sorry I found out? Girls, Mom warned. Not today. Right, I smiled coldly. Today's perfect, just like everything else in Claire's life. The makeup artist approached with her brush. Ready for touch-ups? I'll do my own, I said quickly, not wanting anyone to notice the brooch. Claire caught my arm as I turned away. Can we talk? Please? Just for a minute? I followed her to a private corner, aware of the camera recording every moment. I tried to give it back, she whispered. The venue deposit, but they said it was non-refundable. How convenient. I'm serious. I feel terrible. Trenton and I even talked about postponing. But you didn't. Mom said it would be a waste. Of my money? She flinched. That's not fair. None of this is fair, Claire, but you're still going through with it. Because I love him. Tears welled in her eyes. And I love you. You're my sister. Please don't let this ruin everything. For a moment, just a moment, I wavered. Then my phone buzzed. Another anonymous text. Last warning, don't do this to your family. My resolve hardened. You should finish getting ready. Wouldn't want to ruin your perfect makeup. The next few hours passed in a blur of photographs, last-minute adjustments, and carefully orchestrated moments. Mom kept trying to create picture-perfect scenes of sisterly love, while Dad hovered anxiously in the background. Finally, guests began arriving. I watched from a window as Boston and Elise took their strategic positions, one near the front, one in the middle, both with clear views of the altar. 5 minutes, the wedding coordinator called out. Claire appeared beside me, radiant in her final moments of preparation. How do I look? Like $40,000, I said quietly. She paled. Caroline. Places, everyone. The coordinator clapped her hands. Bridesmaids, line up. As we took our positions, I felt my phone buzz one last time. Not an anonymous threat this time, but a message from Dad. Whatever you're planning, please remember, you can't take it back. I deleted it without responding. The wedding march began to play. One by one, we processed down the aisle. I could feel Mom beaming from the front row, Dad looking nervous beside her. Boston gave me a subtle nod as I passed. Elise wouldn't meet my eyes. I took my place at the altar, watching Claire float down the aisle on Dad's arm. She looked beautiful, perfect, everything she'd always been and I'd never managed to become. The minister began to speak. Dearly beloved, we are gathered here today. My hand touched the brooch. In moments, everything would change. The perfect family would shatter. The perfect wedding would become a viral scandal. If anyone has any reason why these two should not be joined in marriage, I took a deep breath. This was it. My moment of truth. Claire turned slightly, catching my eye. For the first time in weeks, I really looked at my sister. And what I saw made me hesitate, but only for a moment. Actually, I stepped forward, my voice carrying across the suddenly silent church. I do have a reason. Claire's face crumpled. Caroline, please. Everyone here thinks this is a perfect wedding, I continued, my voice growing stronger. A perfect couple, a perfect family, but it's all built on lies. Mom stood up. Caroline, stop this right now. No, Mom, I won't stop. Not anymore. I turned to address the guests directly. You want to know how this perfect wedding was funded? With stolen money? My money. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. I could see Boston's red recording light blinking steadily. $40,000, I announced. Every penny I'd saved since I was 16. They took it all, without asking, without permission, to pay for this. I gestured at the elaborate decorations. Because heaven forbid Claire doesn't get exactly what she wants. That's enough. Dad started moving toward me. Is it? I pulled out the bank statements Elise had found. Should we talk about the second mortgage, the maxed out credit cards, all to maintain this perfect image? Security! Mom called out. Two men in black suits started moving up the aisle. Go ahead, I laughed. Remove me, but you can't remove the truth. This whole thing is streaming live right now. Gasps echoed through the church. Phones started appearing in people's hands, already searching for the feed. She's lying, Mom announced desperately. She's just jealous of her sister's happiness. Am I? I pulled out my phone, projecting screenshots of my bank account onto the wall using the church's presentation system. Boston's technical setup working perfectly. Here's my account before and after, the same day they booked this venue. Trenton stepped forward. Claire, did you know about this? Claire's perfect makeup was streaking with tears. I didn't know at first. When I found out, she knew, I cut in. She always knows. She just pretends not to see the damage she causes. The security guards reached me. One grabbed my arm. Touch me and it gets worse, I warned. I have years of evidence. Every time they chose her over me. Every sacrifice I was forced to make while she got everything. Stop! Claire screamed. She ripped off her veil. Just stop! You're right, okay? You're right about everything. The church fell silent. I knew, she continued, voice shaking. I knew they took your money. I knew it was wrong. But I was scared to say no to Mom, scared to be anything less than perfect, scared to disappoint everyone like you always did, Mom gasped. Claire. No, Mom. Caroline's right. We're frauds. All of us. Claire turned to Trenton. I'm sorry. I can't do this. I can't start our marriage with stolen money and lies. Trenton stared at her for a long moment, then walked out without a word. The church erupted in chaos. Do you see what you've done? Mom advanced on me, face contorted with rage. You've ruined everything. No, Mom. You did that. The moment you decided your image was worth more than your daughter's future. Dad finally spoke up. She's right, Mara. This has to stop. John, don't you dare. I'm done enabling this. He turned to the guests. My daughter is telling the truth. We stole her money. We've been living a lie, and I'm ashamed. The security guards released me, clearly unsure what to do in this situation. Phones were recording everywhere now. I could practically see the social media storm brewing. Caroline, Claire approached me, mascara streaking down her face. I know it's too late, but I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I looked at my sister, really looked at her. Behind the perfect facade, I saw something I'd never noticed before. Fear. The same fear I'd lived with my whole life, of never being enough. It's not too late, I said quietly. It's just the truth. Finally. Mom collapsed into a pew, her carefully constructed world crumbling around her. Dad sat beside her, looking both defeated and relieved. Boston appeared at my side. It's trending already. Top story on 3 platforms. Elise joined us, her camera still recording. What now? I looked around at the destroyed wedding, the shocked guests, my broken family, the perfect day shattered by truth. Now, I said, unpinning the brooch camera. We stopped pretending. I walked down the aisle, past the whispers and stares, past the scattered rose petals and abandoned programs. At the door, I turned back one last time. Claire stood alone at the altar, still in her perfect dress, looking more real than she ever had before. Mom sobbed in the front pew while Dad stared straight ahead. The perfect family finally exposed. I stepped out into the sunlight, feeling lighter than I had in years. The truth had cost me my family, but lies had already done that long ago. At least now everyone knew it. 3 days after the wedding that wasn't, my video had over 5 million views. Perfect family fraud was trending, and my inbox was flooded with messages from strangers sharing similar stories of family betrayal. You've got another interview request, Boston said, scrolling through his phone. We were sitting in his office, monitoring the fallout. Morning show wants you live tomorrow. No more interviews. I closed my laptop, pushing away from the endless social media storm. I've said everything I needed to say. My phone rang. Claire's number. I'd been ignoring her calls since the wedding, but this time something made me answer. Hello? I moved out, she said without preamble. I'm staying at a hotel. What about Trenton? He's gone. Said he couldn't trust me anymore. Her voice cracked. Mom's not speaking to me since I defended you to the local news. You defended me? Of course I did. You told the truth. Something I should have done a long time ago. A knock at Boston's door interrupted us. Through the security camera, I saw Dad standing outside, looking haggard. I have to go, I told Claire. Wait, can we meet? Please, I need to talk to you properly. I hesitated. I'll think about it. Boston opened the door. Dad stepped in, holding a thick envelope. Caroline, he said, looking years older than he had at the wedding. We need to talk. About what? How the country club kicked you out? How Mom's perfect reputation is ruined? About this. He placed the envelope on the desk. It's everything we own. The house, the cars, our investments, what's left of them. We're selling it all. I opened the envelope, scanning the documents. Why are you showing me this? Because it's yours. He sat heavily in a chair. All of it. To sell and recoup what we took from you. Dad, no, let me finish. He pulled out another paper. Your mother doesn't know I'm here. She's not well. The exposure, the shame. She had a breakdown yesterday. My stomach twisted. Is she okay? She's getting help. Professional help. Finally. He smiled sadly. It turns out our perfect family had more cracks than even you knew about. Boston quietly excused himself, leaving us alone. I failed you, Dad continued. I failed both my daughters by enabling your mother's obsession with appearances, by not standing up when I should have, by letting fear of confrontation destroy our family. Why now? I asked. Why are you suddenly willing to admit all this? Because I watched that video, not just at the wedding, but afterward. I saw my daughter's face as she exposed our lies. I saw what we'd done to you, really saw it, maybe for the first time. My phone buzzed. Another message from Claire. I found my old diary. Remember when Mom made you give up your school play lead so I could have it? I'm so sorry. I have so much to make up for. Dad noticed my expression. Claire? Yeah, she misses you. He leaned forward. We all do, but we understand if you never want to see us again. I stared at the documents. The house isn't worth $40,000. No, it's worth much more. Along with everything else, it should cover what we took, with interest. And Mom agreed to this? Mom doesn't get a vote anymore. His voice hardened. I've separated our finances, filed for divorce, 27 years of enabling her ends now. Divorce? I sat back, shocked. But your perfect marriage was as fake as everything else. He stood up. I'll have my lawyer contact you about the property transfers, unless what? Unless you're willing to try family counseling first. All of us. No pretenses, no perfect image to maintain, just truth. My phone buzzed again. This time it was Elise. Have you seen the news? Your story's inspiring people to speak up about financial abuse in families. You're making a difference. I looked at Dad, really looked at him. The proud man who'd always hidden behind Mom's decisions was gone. In his place was someone I barely recognized, someone real. I'll think about it, I said finally. The counseling, but I'm keeping these. I picked up the documents. As insurance. He nodded. Fair enough. At the door he paused. For what it's worth, I'm proud of you. Not for exposing us, though we deserved it, but for being strong enough to stand up for yourself. Something I never did. After he left, Boston came back in. You okay? No, I said honestly, but maybe someday. My phone lit up with a text from Claire. Remember when we were kids? Before Mom's perfect family obsession? When we were just sisters who loved each other? I miss that. I miss you. I stared at the message for a long time before finally replying. Coffee tomorrow? Just us. No perfect daughters, no pretenses, just truth. Her response was immediate. Yes, please. Thank you. Maybe some things broken could be rebuilt. Not perfectly, but honestly. And maybe that was better than perfect anyway. The coffee shop where Claire and I first met for reconciliation became our regular spot. Today, like every Wednesday for the past few weeks, she was already waiting at our usual table. You're late, she said, sliding my usual order across the table. Therapy ran long. I sat down, noticing the stack of papers beside her cup. What's that? My diary entries. I've been typing them up. She pushed them toward me. Every time I was chosen over you, every unfair advantage, every stolen opportunity. Claire, we've been through this. I know, but I need you to have them. For the book. I nearly choked on my coffee. What book? The one you should write. About financial abuse in families. About standing up to toxic patterns. She pulled out her phone. Look at these messages I got after sharing my side of the story online. The screen showed dozens of comments from people sharing similar experiences, siblings describing hidden resentments, children detailing stolen inheritances, families torn apart by financial favoritism. Your story matters, Claire said. Our story matters. The bell above the door chimed. Dad walked in, followed by our family therapist, Dr. Rivera. Sorry I'm late, Dad said, pulling up a chair. The realtor needed signatures. You sold the house? Claire asked. He nodded. Closing next week. Your mother's furious, but she signed the papers. How is she? I asked quietly. Better. The new medication helps. She's starting to understand what she did to this family with her obsession for perfection. He smiled sadly. She asked about you both yesterday, actually asked, not just demanded. Dr. Rivera opened her notebook. Shall we begin? Caroline, you wanted to discuss boundaries going forward? Yes. I took a deep breath. I've decided what to do about the money. Everyone tensed. I don't want the house proceeds, I said, or any of the other assets. Caroline, Dad started, but I held up my hand. Let me finish. I don't want revenge anymore. What I want is change. I pulled out my own stack of papers. I'm starting a foundation for victims of family financial abuse to help them get legal aid, counseling, Whatever they need to break free. Claire's eyes widened. That's amazing. I want to use what happened to us to help others, I continued. But I need your help, all of you, including Mom, when she's ready. How? Dad asked. By telling the truth. The whole truth. No more perfect family facade. No more hiding the ugly parts. I turned to Dr. Rivera. Would you help us develop a program? Something that addresses both the financial and emotional aspects? She smiled. I'd be honored. There's something else, Claire said, pulling out another paper. I found my old wedding dress receipt. I sold it yesterday. It's not $40,000, but... She slid a check across the table. Claire, please. Let me start making things right. My phone buzzed. A text from Boston. Morning Show still wants that interview, but they want all of you. The whole story, from every angle. Interested? I showed them the message. It won't be pretty, Dad warned. People will judge us. They already are, Claire pointed out. At least this way we can help others while we heal ourselves. Dr. Rivera made a note. This could be very therapeutic, but only if everyone's ready. I looked at my father, who had finally found his voice. At my sister, no longer hiding behind perfection. At the empty chair where Mom might someday sit, facing her own demons. I'm ready, I said. Me too. Claire reached for my hand. Dad nodded slowly. Together then. No more perfect lies. I texted Boston back. Set it up. But make sure they understand. This isn't about revenge anymore. It's about redemption. His response was immediate. That's an even better story. Claire laughed suddenly. Remember when all I wanted was a perfect wedding? Remember when all I wanted was revenge? I squeezed her hand. Maybe we both needed something else entirely. Truth, Dad said quietly. We all needed truth. Dr. Rivera closed her notebook. Same time next week? We nodded, standing to leave. Outside the coffee shop, Claire hugged me impulsively. Thank you, she whispered, for breaking our perfect family. We needed to break to become real. I hugged her back, feeling something I hadn't felt in years. Hope. Not for perfection, but for something better. Something honest. Dad cleared his throat. Your mother asked. She asked if she could watch the interview when it airs. Together. All of us. I met Claire's eyes, saw my own mix of fear and hope reflected there. Together, I agreed. But this time, we tell the whole truth. After all, real families aren't perfect. They're just perfectly honest about their imperfections. And finally, that's exactly what we were becoming.